We have just started Harrowings Podcast with Ian. How do you pronounce this? Reclusato?
Reclusado, yes, sir.
All right. Is that a real name or is that a made up name?
Nope, that is real. My
Okay.
my my grandfather's from the Philippines. I
I
think
got
it's something we picked up from the Spanish at some point. I'm not sure why they decided to call us that. It's a Spanish sounding name, but
it sounded like recluse to me.
yep,
And you are the kind knife as well.
yes,
So,
that's my it's my business name.
all right. Well, let's hear about that business or whatever you want to talk about because we're just going to scrape the surface of things. That's what harrowing does.
Nice, nice.
See what turns up and see what sprouts.
Turn my phone off here so it stops blinking at me.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Warmer there.
Let's see. What's that?
It looks like it's really cold here, right? Because I'm all bundled up.
Oh, I'm actually really cold here. It's I'm up in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
It is pretty chilly. I've got the heater pumping. You
Washington
know,
State or Oregon?
Oregon, just south of Portland, about
Just south
half
of
an hour
Oregon.
south of Portland. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
got
yeah, yeah.
friends out there, that's why I ask.
Oh,
Down in
nice.
Rogue Valley, if you know it.
Oh, yes, sir. No, I love Oregon. I feel like you can't live in Oregon without getting outdoors. It just, it calls you out there all over the state.
All right.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, so, let's see. The kind knife, right? That is something I came up with several years ago. I've been wanting to write something for the public for a while.
Yeah,
Um, wow, you got a lot of people going here. This is great.
us too, but,
Just
it's
two?
a start.
Okay. Oh,
We
I
didn't
see.
have that many in my last one either, but they really piled in at the end, and we've started getting a lot of feedback and stuff going back and forth. It's fun.
Oh,
Go
nice.
ahead.
Nice, nice. No, I'm not, this is my first time doing a Substack live. Most of my other podcast experience has been pre-recorded Zoom stuff,
Yep,
not live stuff. So,
yep. We're
I'm
very
learning the ropes as we go here.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think let's start with this. I reached out to you originally around a post I had done on memory reconsolidation,
yes.
which is a sort of a neurobiology term. It's the way that it's the way that the brain will, or the mind will, take a memory, an old memory, open it up, put in new learning, and then reconsolidate it so that the old beliefs are updated with new ones. It's not hypnotism. It's not programming. It's because it only works when you have an old belief that is no longer functioning to support you, right?
Uh-huh.
And this is the neurobiology behind. So they say, I've studied with a woman named Jules Taylor Shore through the Therapy Wisdom online platform.
Uh-huh.
She studied with a guy, Bruce Ecker, who is, a therapist and a scientist, publishes a lot of academic papers on this front. So sort of trickled down through me. I don't know either of them personally, but this is where I'm getting my information from.
Gotcha.
Um, and this is their claim, is that this is the science, the brain science behind how any therapy is going to work. So any modality, be that, typical Freudian therapy, Jungian therapy, more modern stuff like IFS, EMDR, anything along those lines. When you have an aha moment in therapy, this is what is happening. So because they're able to sort of understand the brain functioning underneath those, and they're practicing clinicians, they're able to kind of combine those two together and use it as an aid in the therapy room. I am not a therapist. I am more of a coach.
That's
I received training through a now problematic organization about 10 to 12 years ago. Um,
problematic.
yeah, yeah, a little drama. Um,
That sounds interesting.
we can get to that in a minute. We can get to that in a minute. We can get to that in a minute.
I
I'm happy to talk about it, but I don't want to. I don't want to derail where I'm going with this. So if
yep.
you remember and ask me about it, I'll definitely bring it up. Um, so um, I'm coming at it from a coaching background, from a trying to help people, just find the places in their life where there's some kind of internal friction in their mind, and find ways to relate to it differently, so that the part of the brain that is causing the friction is able to feel protected and held and seen so that it can open up and hopefully take in new information that may already be present in the mind. But we want those to come together. And
Interesting.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you have any questions, please interrupt me.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can talk a lot.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. Okay.
You're the
And
guest, so you get to sort of, like, steer it where you wanna go.
okay, great.
You got a
Well,
message for us too.
something I've seen in on your Substack, you are familiar with the Gurdjieff teaching.
I am a bit. I'm a
And
dabbler,
I'm a dabbler as well.
but I
I'm
might
in
be
no way
deeper than
official
I
in any
know.
way.
Yeah.
Hmm?
My friend Joan and I talked about it a lot. Her mother died at, like, 105. She survived the Spanish flu and COVID, but finally passed away, and she was big into the work. She was an
Oh wow.
artist.
Oh wow. Okay. That's great. I'll have to check
Joan
that
is
out.
my
Yeah.
friend who's also into it and knows what I'm talking about when I mention it, and I come to it through a sort of a oblique way through the music of King Crimson,
Oh, right. Robert Fripp. Yes, yes, yes. Mm,
who studied with J.G. Bennett, who, of course, comes down from Lewinsky and Gurdjieff.
right. Right. That's a nice little lineage trace. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I mention that is Gurdjieff has this idea of the three forces, the trium mazicano, the holy affirming, holy denying, holy reconciling, the triangle, right?
Yep.
And having, dabbled in Gurdjieff's work and read a bunch of stuff and worked with a few groups, a few teachers over the years, but never, nothing serious. I can't claim a heavy investment in that lineage, but
No?
I'm I'm familiar enough to say, like, when it comes to memory reconsolidation, I immediately noticed that the key to the whole process
Yeah,
is a triangle, right?
right.
So in order to have it happen, you need to have the old story that we believe, whatever we sort of, and this is an emotional belief. This is like something that we believe is true about the world. It is true. Like if I reach out for something that I want, if I desire things, or if I'm trying to make something happen, like I'm gonna get in trouble. And it's not an intellectual knowing. It's something that we come to over time when we notice that, hey, like I seem to be very dissatisfied with my life. Like I'm not sure where it's going, why I can't seem to get a handle on things. And through working with somebody or even on our own, we can sort of come to this understanding of, oh, I feel this fear, this anxiety around that. That anxiety is an emotion that's coming from this held belief that my need for things is gonna get slapped on the wrist if I start reaching out for stuff. That's an old belief that's encoded in the body. And even if you get new information on top of, like, oh, there's that one time I wanted this job and I applied for it and I got it and it went really well and everything went fine there. That new information may not be talking to the old information, the old part of the brain that's holding this knowledge, this belief about the world from when you were younger.
Uh-huh.
So what we need to do in kind of an alchemical way is we need to activate that old knowing so that it comes up in the conscious awareness, in the field of the awareness, and it feels true. And then we also want to have enough safety and regulation around that old knowing, which you can do with another person. When we share traumatic things in a group or even just one on
Yes.
one, it helps settle. Yes, I see you nodding. Yes,
That's
uh,
sort of harrowing too because life itself is harrowing.
yes,
Traumatic
exactly.
experience. We are traumatized primates is my thesis. Go ahead.
Yes, yes, and trauma is nothing other than these underlying layers of memory that get projected on the present moment as if they were real, but they're really just some story we're holding on to from the past.
Well,
Be
being
that,
born itself is very traumatic.
yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Nothing more traumatic that I can think of practically than having to get your head through the birth canal.
That's
Right?
true, and
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 serious.
if yeah, and
Your
if you
mother is
look at
traumatized by the event, and the way they used to do it in my day, of course, she's thrown out into this bright, white, sterile environment from being nice and cozy and very organic. Anyway,
yeah, and then they hold you up in the air. There's this thing you can't even tell what they are. Their face is covered. You maybe see some eyes, but everything's covered. They
yeah,
hold you up and they smack you on the butt.
yeah.
That's
If you
your
open
welcome to
your
the
eyes,
world.
well, I don't think you open your eyes for a while usually. I don't
No,
know. I haven't been
Fair
doing
enough.
this for a while, but go ahead.
Some level of awareness is
Yeah.
happening there, for sure, for sure.
Go ahead.
But no, I think that's a good point because I think if you look at other species, like when the creatures are born, horses, deer, like they get up and they run
Oh,
around. They're fully developed. My understanding, and I don't know how true this is, but things I have read is one of the reasons humans don't do that is we're born prematurely due to
yes.
the size of our brain, and so we can't get through the birth canal if we were to develop any further in utero. So
Right.
we're sort of born in a it is
Oh,
traumatic because
you
our
just gave me a
development
great
is not.
idea.
Yeah.
Synthetic wombs that can allow us to gestate until we're 21.
You
I
may be overshooting the necessity a little bit, sir.
don't
20
maybe, but then again, I
21.
don't wanna rush. I mean, I was delayed getting out anyway. I was supposed to be born January 16th if I was in sync with my father and grandfather, who were both born on January 16th, 1907, 1933. I missed it by a couple weeks. I was February 4th. I
Okay.
was
So
close, and I'm the 3rd in the series. We all got the same name because I'm
oh,
not very
okay.
creative, apparently.
Well, there's something to
Anyway,
be
go
said
ahead.
for tradition, I
Yeah, go
suppose.
ahead. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah. No, no, I
waiting.
like I like I like the back and forth. I don't need to lecture at the screen the entire time.
Well, this is fun. I mean, I'm having a good time, and I will do that. By the way, I pulled out my you didn't go very deep into Gurdjieff. You gotta get this
Oh, I
one.
have that. I've read it 2.5 times.
You've read it 2.5 times? Well, then you've
Yes,
gotten
sir.
in deep. Come on.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
this was designed to screen out people who weren't serious. Did
That
you
is
know
true.
that?
Yeah, I mean,
You literally
you,
the
you read
Bielsa
it once, you have an
Tales
intimate.
Tales to His Godson. My copy is ripped here.
Yes,
Was
mine is
designed it's
well loved
all
as
and
well.
everything, first series. Um, it was designed to actually screen people out who weren't serious about the work. You gotta be serious about the work to go through that, and I haven't done it yet, actually, I just bought it.
Oh, oh,
Off of, Lost City Books. There's a nice little bookstore down here in Adams Morgan in Washington, DC, if you're ever in town. You ever come to DC?
nice. I do not often. I went there. I used to live in New York. I lived in Brooklyn for a number of years. I went to school there, and an ex girlfriend and I spent a weekend in DC just touring around.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been there other than that. It's a nice city,
It's New
but
York's nicest city.
West Coast, West fair,
That's what
fair.
Christopher Hitchens called it. You know Christopher Hitchens?
I am familiar with the man. Yes,
He is
yes,
dead.
that
It's
is true.
very sad. He
Yes.
died a little younger than I am now of esophageal cancer. His last book was called Mortality. He didn't quite finish it. But he's a great
It's like
thinker.
cosmic joke.
No, he's just a great thinker and a raconteur, and, there's so much on YouTube that's still left for us since he died in 2011. He was my neighbor here. We were
Oh,
in Wyoming, which is just up and around the corner from me. I'm very close to what we call the Hinckley Hilton, if you know what
okay.
that is.
I
That's
do
where
not know
Hinckley
this.
shot Ronald Reagan in 1980.
Oh,
And, John
okay.
Hinckley ended up living in my neighborhood down in Williamsburg, Virginia, where I'm from. That's
Oh wow.
my Colonial
Oh,
Williamsburg.
you're repping the original hood. I like it.
Yeah, this is my alumni hoodie that we wear when we're in uniform and it's cold out, like at the Christmas parade. Williamsburg has a community Christmas parade, so I break out my old fife. That's a Coca-Cola
Nice,
fife there, and,
nice.
fife and drum is about amplifying signals through the noise, so we're amplifying your signal through the noise of cyberspace.
I'm happy to be amplified. How long you
Let's
been?
get
Is
back
that is it? Well, is that the fife you've had since you were, since you were
this one
first
actually I
starting
bought
out?
it in, like, 1992 or so, I think, if I remember right,
Wow.
before I left Colonial Williamsburg, because I've forgotten what happened to my original one. Maybe I lost it, maybe I broke it. They do break if you sit on them.
Most things do.
Well, it depends
Well,
on what
not
it
all
is.
things, but many
No, not
things.
all things. There are
Yeah,
squishy things you could sit upon. My chair, my
that is
table.
true. They are designed for it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Designed
it's
not
just
to
kinda
work.
fun to go to random stuff, and I just like bouncing from one thing to the next
Mhm,
because
mhm.
it's very entertaining what goes on in my head I don't know. I
Yeah.
never know what's gonna really resonate with somebody out there, and I'm hoping that some of this stuff does. You're writing, right? As well.
Uh,
This Substack was a means of writing about, um, I put it there, memory reconcil reconsolidation. Thank you. I can talk.
it's a difficult word for sure. I
Let's
think
get
with
back
the
on.
reclusado last name has gotten me kind of used to that number of syllables. Reclusado, reconsolidation, they're very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know my Substack is was the original intention of it, and it remains this way, is the place for me to kind of explore my ideas.
Yeah.
The things that I mean, I guess this is kind of cliched, right? I write about the things I'm interested in, but the the idea is, I
The
want to
opposite's funny.
offer.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to offer this service to people. Um, Over the past few years, I've been developing it out of that initial problematic thing that I touched on earlier.
Yes.
Um,
Okay.
and so I sort of developed it from there.
And you're
Um,
coaching, right? So you're trying to develop these ideas so that you can put them into use with your clients,
yes, yeah,
right?
I want to be of service in that way. I want to sort of help people in their own journeys.
Mhm.
And where I'm at right now is I'm looking for clients. I'm looking for sort of donation based, pay what you will. I've developed this
Oh,
new thing. I've tried it out with a few people. I have a regular client friend that I'm working with. I've done some work with friends and family. I have a mentor that I'm working with who's
oh,
from
cool.
sort of a Jungian tradition.
Oh,
So,
I love it.
so I thought you might. So a lot of active imagination is involved. Kind of the
Yeah, what
core
is up with
component of it.
that red book, man? Okay, go ahead.
Ooh, yeah, the Red Book. I saw the original in New York. It came through the Rubin Museum there back in like 2010, 2011.
Right, and they had this
Um,
whole thing at the Library of Congress, back
yeah,
just before the publication of this facsimile, which
yeah.
I have a copy of. Mine's a second printing, though, damn it.
Oh no.
I don't have
Oh,
the first printing, even though I pre-ordered it. All
I
the
pre-ordered it too.
first printings were gone, so I've got a first edition second printing.
Ah, sh- I pre-ordered mine too. I'll have to check and see. I've never actually
No, if you get a
looked at the
first edition
edition number.
first printing, it's worth some bucks.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I got it. I ordered it off of Amazon, and it was like $90 because they hadn't figured out how to price it yet. It was a pre-order, so I got it super cheap.
That's
It's been
amazing.
sitting
I
on my
don't
shelf.
remember
I've
what
never looked at it. I've looked at it a bunch, but I never actually sat down to like read it and digest the text of it. It looks very intense.
well, yeah, he thought he was doing a schizophrenia, right? That's the way he said it, doing a schizophrenia. He wasn't sure he hadn't cracked up.
Sounds like classic shamanic journey to me. You know,
Well, and the premonition,
similar.
of the First World War is what
Mm,
it appeared to be to him, I think, to some extent. Another thing about Lost City Books, I went by there, it's been years now, I expect,
mm,
and in the window, they had Seven Sermons to the Dead, the Gnostic
mm,
Jung and the Seven Sermons to the Dead,
mhm.
which is by Stephen A. Heller. Have you ever run across Stefan, I guess it is, A. Heller? He's
No,
on
I've read the original sermons, but I didn't know there were books on it. That's
I think
interesting.
he's alive still in, LA and he's like the, potentate of or archbishop or whatever of the Gnostic church, a Gnostic ecclesiaste or something. He's
Okay.
very interesting, YouTube has plenty of, his talks, but he talks a very thick Hungarian accent.
Okay.
Still, he was born there, and it
Right.
opens up with him, very secretively at post-war, post-World War II.
Mm,
In Switzerland somewhere where, serendipitously somebody who he knew through different circles or whatever was because Jung self-published, the Seven Sermons to the Dead,
mhm,
and it
mhm.
was very rare to have a copy, and he got his hands on a copy, was able to borrow it, read it, and, get it into his head, and oh, you know
Wow.
about how he wrote through a pen name, if you will, of a Gnostic, priest of Alexandria from the
Mm.
1st century or something, right?
Yeah, yeah. You mean in the sermons themselves?
Yeah, Jung.
Yeah,
Jung
yeah, yeah,
took
yeah,
on
yeah.
this persona to write
Oh,
it,
what was his name?
and
Yeah,
he
I just read those
self-published
recently.
it.
I can't.
So it was
Yeah,
very narrowly circulated.
yeah. I
All
think
the
I think I have mine in the back of. It's in my edition of Memories, Dreams, and Reflections. His
Yeah,
his sort of
Memory, Dreams, and
autobiography has it in the back of
Reflections.
that.
I read that on my flight to Copenhagen when I was moving there from Pittsburgh.
Oh,
For a job, and I was reading that. at that time. I remember pretty vividly being up in the air, over somewhere over Iceland or something, reading those things. A lot of
Wow.
fun. No, it's
Yeah.
great. It's very accessible too. A lot of people say, "Oh, I haven't read Jung. He's too big." No, he's really accessible. The first book I got of his, Answer to Job.
Hmm.
You know that
Y
one?
yes, that's, like, one of the few other ones of his that I've digested, yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's very accessible. I thought it was gonna offer me career advice when I first picked it up, but nope, not that kinda job.
Answer to job, yep. I could use an answer to job, I'll tell you that.
I was working at the Carnegie Museum of Art at the time in the conservation department. I wasn't making much, and I was kinda
Mm,
frustrated with my job, and I go over every lunch hour, I'd go across the street and get over this little cafe that was called Kiva Han, no longer there.
mm.
And I would go and get a book, whatever was, like, on the sale rack at Caliban's bookstore, and
Oh,
so I
nice.
the Answer to Job when I was feeling like I needed some guidance. It wasn't exactly the kind of guidance I was expecting, but it was guidance nonetheless. Into the whole character of Yahweh, for God's sakes. What is up with this guy? Why doesn't he contact his omniscience? I mean, hello? You know how it's gonna turn out. Why do you do that to that poor guy? Right? That's the story in a nutshell, folks.
Yeah, yeah. Was that your first introduction to Jung?
No, I'm sure
Okay.
I mean, actually, in college, went to, Randolph-Macon College in Ashland, Virginia. It's called the center of the universe because Ashland is like the geographic center of Virginia, and according to Virginians, Virginia is the universe. So,
Fair
and
enough. Fair enough.
so Ashland, Virginia, I'm there. I'm taking a, advanced English course to get through my freshman English requirement, and they're using a book called Patterns in Popular Culture. And it's all based around Jungian archetypes and different pieces of pop culture. So, like, the band's The Weight was in there, and I guess that was maybe Holy Fool. I don't know. I can't remember which one that was supposed to be. But there were many different ones linked together, and a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and
Oh,
they had
wow.
I got exposed to Robert Crumb's White Man in that. You know Robert Crumb's White Man?
I know Robert Crumb, I don't know him well enough to reference the white man, whatever that
It's
album
really
is.
good, actually. It's just, you can imagine what Robert Crumb does with a white man.
Fair enough, fair enough. Say no more. I don't
It
wanna get us
doesn't
in
it
any kind of
doesn't go
trouble here.
well overall. And there's
Yeah.
all these different, pieces of popular culture were interspersed in there. Trying to remember some of the others. They
That's
had Mother
awesome.
Nature's Son by the Beatles. Do you know that from the White Album?
Mm.
It's like
I'd
real
probably
country
recognize the song,
classic.
but not off the
It's
top
like
of
a
my head.
deep cut. You
Yeah,
wouldn't know
yeah.
and if you know the White Album, most people know Revolution, Number 9, maybe, um, some other stuff, but
I got the Beatles like they were my family tradition of our native songs. Like, my dad just played them all the time growing up. So,
really?
so
Hmm,
nowadays, like, I'll hear a Beatles song and I'll be like, "Oh, I can sing along with it," but I couldn't tell you when I first heard it,
mhm.
what the title of the song is, but the lyrics and the melody just are in my DNA thanks to my dad, so,
That's great. I mean,
yeah.
a lot of some of my friends actually from Germany, there was a guy I knew. He learned, to speak English from the Beatles and Frank Zappa.
Wow. It's a interesting vocabulary he's got, I'm sure.
It is, and, he was a character.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Um,
remember him telling me that, he had mashed up a couple of things that I liked very much. He said, "He who lives in glass houses should not have he who is without sin as a dinner guest." Makes sense.
what's that? That's a
Likely to
malapropism?
cast the first stone.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like it. I like it.
Weird.
Um,
It's
uh,
just German.
well,
I studied German,
German humor is when it's funny, it's funny.
yeah, I studied it, accidentally,
Hmm.
um, in Randolph-Macon because I majored in everything else by the time I got around to realizing I already majored in German by taking German courses all the way along the way,
Oh.
so I ended up that way. Yeah, it can happen. You can actually end up majoring in something by accident.
Wow. Wow.
Then I
You
got
still do a lot
lost.
with your German?
No, not much. I did some translations in the '90s, and I've got them still. I haven't actually gone and polished them up for publication, but it might be a kind of a niche market. You know, Colonial Williamsburg we do a lot of preservation of historic trades. So I translated all the ironworking sections of this vocational textbook that was put out in 1767 to about 1777 for the Berlin Realschule, which
Oh,
is like
wow.
a technical school by the rectors there. And they went out and went into the workshops in the Berlin area and recorded in, they call it Handwerke and Künste and Tabellen, which means like trades and arts and tables. They recorded everything that the tradesmen worked with. So they're all grouped by like the iron workers are here, the leather workers are there. So the materials they work with, the tools they apply to the materials, the processes they use to apply the tools to the um, materials, the
Mhm.
products, and then the guild regulations. So there are like 5 sections to every trade that was
Oh,
being
wow.
practiced in the area. And of course, it's right at the juncture when industrialization is about to start up. So you're getting a snapshot of the tail end of the pinnacle of hand trades, which is what
Wow.
Williamsburg tries to preserve, of course, because they're
Mhm.
the same time period.
Mhm. Mhm.
English weren't writing a lot of this stuff down, but Frederick the Great, who was in charge of Prussia at the time where Berlin
Mhm.
was big into this Enlightenment ideal that like Diderot and D'Alembert were into, which wrote the Encyclopedia, in
Mhm.
France. So it's kind of related to that, but it's a little obscure, and it was all on microfilm. So I managed to print off like these glossy, weird sheets from the microfilm copier and to take them home and translate them. And it was a big project. So it's like
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds of pages of stuff that I need to eventually mash up with like photocopies of the original book. I have one copy of the original book in the other room that I bought for more money than I should have from actual Germany.
Oh,
But I
wow.
love the old paper, I love the old bindings, and they're very fragile. And then they have these sheets you pull out that show all the illustrations, these copper plates,
Oh, wow.
these tools and things, and situ as they were at the time. So it's nice to have that connection, that's why I did my German when I got out of college and before I went back to graduate school, and realized in graduate school, all these professors. I was actually the representative of the graduate um, student body to the faculty. So we, like, had 1 vote equal to a faculty member.
Mm.
And I would sit with those guys in their meetings they had. I forget how frequently they were. Maybe they were monthly, I forget. And I realized these people hate each other,
Mm.
and they're chained together by tenure. And this is what I'm training to do with my life? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think I'll go back to conservation, so I did. That's where I got the
Ah.
working in conservation, the Carnegie Museum of Art, because I've been going to the University of Pittsburgh. I was living in Pittsburgh. I needed a job, and it became available, and, one thing led to another, and there I was for about 3 years working for that and doing adjunct faculty at the same time at University of Pittsburgh and at Carnegie Mellon University for 1 semester. I had to
Mhm.
give up my classroom for a film that year in
Hmm.
1999, and it came out in 2000. Bob Dylan won an Oscar for it. So
Okay.
that was kinda cool.
Well done, Bob.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Things Have Changed. Have you ever heard that song?
Nah, I am a Bob Dylan fan in theory, but not in practice. I like him, but I couldn't name a lot of his music.
You know,
I hear you're a big fan, though.
my wife is not. She blew out her brainstem to keep from going to a Bob Dylan concert. This is one thing I've been listening to, actually. Can you see that?
Yeah, 65 to
1956.
66.
This is, volume 12 of the bootleg series, the Cutting Edge Deluxe Edition, which, includes 6 CDs of the outtakes from the stuff Bob was doing around Highway 61 Revisited, Blonde on Blonde, that period. And, anyway, Things Have Changed has this great lyric. It basically is, "I used to care, but things have changed." Which is a great attitude to have, folks. If you care, consider not.
Hmm.
And that might
I
help
think
you in
I
more
don't
of a
know.
psychology.
How do you not slip into depression and ennui and just despair? How, like, what's
Well, I mean, if you're watching The Passing Show and you have a sense of the absurd, you can have a lot of fun.
fair enough. Fair enough.
Right.
So
You're
you care, but
missing
you
the
care about
sense of
fun.
absurd. You're missing a lot of good jokes. This is a joke. This is a play. This is just theater of sorts
Mhm.
that is being played out, and I'm a Baba lover, as you may have picked up from some of my
I
posts.
have noticed. Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I think Meyer Baba is just like the shit, man, because the guy stops talking in 1925. He doesn't drop the body until 69.
Wow. I'm familiar with him as I know the name, but I don't know much of his story. That's fascinating.
Well, as a neuropsychological example, I mean, if that's what you're into, he would have been worth studying, probably. I don't know, man. I'm a skeptic about just about all things, but he claimed to be the avatar of the age at one point, and people bought into it in droves. You know about Pete Townshend's affinity for Baba, right?
I think so. Yeah, that
And the idea
rings
is
a
that
vague bell somewhere.
well, the idea is that, when you have Pete writing tunes like "Bargain," I call that a bargain, the best I ever had. He's talking about, "I'd gladly lose me to find you,
Mm,
gladly sacrifice all I have." He's talking
mhm,
about his desire to connect to his savior as he sees
mhm,
it,
mhm,
and to be that love, that is radiant
mm.
from this Indian guru, right? And there's so many Indian gurus, oh my god, you can't walk down the street practically without
Took over one, yep.
But I'm pretty cool with this one, and Pasni Maharaj, who took Mayor Baba in and
Mhm,
worked with him, and, because what happened was Hazrat Babajan, this old Mohammedan woman sitting under a neem tree in Pune, India, kissed him on the forehead and knocked him into a different dimension or something, and for 9 months, he didn't sleep, he didn't eat, his family was just despairing for him, and then he ended up, seeking out first Sai Baba, Shirdi Sai Baba, not the other one,
mm,
who later claimed to be the reincarnation of Sai Baba, but the first one.
okay.
And then he came to Apasti Maharaj, who threw a stone that hit him right where Hazrat Babajan had, kissed him, and knocked him into ordinary consciousness while he was still in a state of bliss. So he was sort of brought back to ordinary vibrational levels and could then, do things. And, Bhasni Maharaj has this great mantra of be as it may,
Mhm, mhm.
accept everything just as it is. And then, and if you have pain, accept your pain with pleasure. Then you'll have lots of pleasure.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
This is kind of grim, but it makes me laugh. I mean, it's still kind of like I've also been kind of open about my recovery lately.
Mhm, mhm.
And
Well,
my
congratulations.
old AA sponsor used to say after listening to whatever tale of woe I had for that particular week, we used to sit and play Go, the old Chinese board game,
Mhm.
and talk about, Bill Wilson and Friedrich Nietzsche and mash those up. And it was kind of fun for him. I was always shooting over my head, but he'd be listening to whatever my tale of woe from the week was. I
Fair
wasn't
enough.
getting treated right at the museum or whatever. And he'd say, "You're not gonna
Mm.
like how this ends." Bring it to mind that this is a temp job. We're all playing through creation. We got the opportunity to do it.
Mhm,
What are we doing with our lives anyway? Why aren't we in the and as I was talking to DePhilip Chalmers just a bit ago, I don't
mm.
know if you caught any of DePhilip Chalmers' stuff yet. He's on the Intrepid Editor Press. I had one of
I
his books
had
nearby, and it's gone now.
ah,
I rearranged my books to dig out the, Gurdjieff. But,
ah,
anyway, the hell was I saying? Why aren't we in a Dionysian ecstasy about being alive here now? The fact that eukaryotic life exists is pretty amazing, and that it maintains homeostasis for more than a blip, kind of amazing as well. In fact, it might not. Have you heard about the theory of Boltzmann brains? My wife will not
oh,
let me talk about those.
brains as in Branes, overwhelming universes that combine. Am I hearing that?
No, brains is in Brains. A
Okay,
Boltzmann
then.
brain
Oh.
is a spontaneous quantum fluctuation that flashes into existence everything you think you know and have ever experienced, and then you blip right back out again.
Mm. Hmm.
Well, it's more likely that that's the case than this wonderful universe, so well balanced as it appears to be, would exist.
Hmm.
It's hard to think about, but once you do, it's very hard not to think about it. Uh,
What do you find that that does for you? That
what it does for me is it keeps me in a state of maybe logic. Robert Anton
mm,
Wilson's maybe logic.
mhm,
Have you
mhm.
tripped over Robert Anton Wilson yet?
I have, yes,
Oh,
yes,
good, good. Tell me about
yes.
Tell me about your
Uh
trip because old Bob, I love him.
oh my,
You
where to
can
start?
not love him, that's fine. If you don't love him, that's
I
alright.
I love and mistrust him, but I love and mistrust many people. That's not a
You know what he
mark
says?
against him.
He says, "I don't believe anything, but I have many suspicions." Go for it.
um, yeah, no, I read the Illuminatus trilogy years and years ago.
Uh-huh.
I'm
Oh, good.
familiar with the what is it? Sumbinal. I think all that comes in under maybe logic, some but not all. Yeah, I forget. There's other phrases that he sort of threw together, but the constant questioning of reality is, I think, an important phase, an important thing. It's an important skill to have.
Oh, have you
Um,
accepted reality?
hmm?
Have you accepted reality?
Well, what do you mean by reality?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Then sure, why not? I've accepted something that you have no idea what it is. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
what you got
I
there?
stick with this book a good bit. I don't know if that's supposed.
Mm, conspiracy, dupes of the conspiracy. Yes.
Yeah, you got it. That's the battle for men's minds, and you got these different, characters who are involved in that. You got, of course, Eris,
Mm,
the Tetragrammaton over there. Yahweh.
ah,
Good old Yahweh. That's, Jehovah One, though, and, this is something Bob
oh,
knew
Bob.
about quite a bit. The book
Yes, the subgenius.
Yes. I ran across this in '83 when I ran across one of their zines,
Hmm.
very early in the Subgenius period. You know why they call that?
Zines.
No, why they call the Subgenius, the Church of the Sub.
Oh, I was like, it's short for magazine. Well, no, I don't know. Why'd you tell me?
As I understand it, these guys were getting stoned in Texas and said, "Our problem is we're not really geniuses. We're like subgeniuses." And they founded a church.
Fair enough. I guess you do that. Maybe that's a thing in Texas. I don't know.
Well, Waco. No,
Waco
Wacko.
was Jonestown in Texas?
And, in Guyana.
Well, I was thinking it had started there and then
Isn't
had to
it
got
California?
chased out of this. It was
California?
California. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I think
I'm
so,
getting my
Jim
desert states
Jones. Well, you
confused.
look it up. We got Wikipedia.
That's true.
We
That's
got
true. Do
Grokpedia.
you trust Wikipedia? Do you
Uh,
trust Grok? There's a question.
well, I mean, it's pretty obvious, isn't it, that all we have to deal with is the products of human minds.
Mm.
But you are talking about memory reconsolidation earlier, and I've really taken this far afield.
I enjoyed the journey.
Let's bring
Yeah,
it back. I
memory,
mean, I wanna get back to what you're doing here with the knife of kindness or kindness knife.
the kind knife.
The kind
The idea of the kind knife. The kind of work that I do and want to continue doing. I want to develop with people.
Mhm.
The metaphor I like to use is going on a journey into the person's subgenius, their unconscious, into the nature
The
of the mind.
unconscious,
Yeah, well,
the subconscious.
the subconscious, sure,
Yeah.
sure. The thing that we don't normally think of as ourselves, but we still think of as ourselves, the place where that friction in our life will arise from.
Mhm.
Um, so to go into that as an explorer, here's the metaphor: like going into the forest. You're going into the forest. You're going into the wildlands. You're going into sort of the undiscovered territory. You're not sure what's going on there, but you know that something keeps coming out of that territory and killing your sheep, or the bandits come out and they come through your house and they take all the good stuff and they run away. You know, um, if you have something in your life that keeps coming and sort of discombobulating your life or leaving you sort of lost, that's a sign of something in the subconscious needing attention. And so the idea of the kind knife is if you're going to go into the woods, you want to have a guide, you want to have somebody at your side, you want to have somebody who's able to, you know, find food, able to create shelter, able to, if you have, um, you can use a knife to get a pebble out of your boot. If you've got something that's making your boot a little, your tread a little uneven, the knife is just a helpful tool. Um, when it comes to psychological stuff, you can if you differentiate out what is happening to you, that's sort of cutting pieces apart from each other, being able to say, "Oh, I'm not angry. I have a part in me that is angry," and so that creates this separation. That's a little bit of discrimination. It gives you an ability to observe that part in action.
So you don't have to
Um,
become a berserker right away.
exactly. It gives you a little bit of a breath. Gives you a way to relate to it. Um, and the idea is as we explore this internal wilderness, that we can become stewards of it as mankind, as a humankind is meant to be stewards of, of the earth. We do that work. We start doing that work internally, you know?
Isn't that arrogant, though, to think that we're designed to be why aren't the cetaceans stewards of the earth? Why do we have to have it loaded onto us?
Well, I mean, if we look at the world and we see something that for like why do we think tragedies are sad? Why do we have the sense that
Why do
life
we
isn't
think
fair? Should we stop?
well, you see, the problem
Can
I
we?
have is that primates we are, we're
Mhm.
quite delusional. It
That can
seems
be an easy way to avoid looking at things, though. Paint
I'm
it
not
over with the brush of it's
avoiding
just
looking at
delusion.
things. I'm just stepping outside of it and looking at it with a colder eye, and of like, okay, you got a traumatized primate there. I love this cartoon, where the angels are up there with God, and God's saying, "Look, I've created man," and the angels are saying, "Fucked up a perfectly good monkey is what you've done. Look, it's got anxiety."
That's true. That's true.
So the point being that we give ourselves this idea we can be stewards. It's like my old father's old history professor said to William and Mary. Man is the pinnacle of creation, but only man has ever said so.
That's fair.
So I don't know, man. But yeah, let's
Yeah.
get back on
No,
track.
no, no, no. We don't have
'Cause
we
I
don't have
do
to
like
agree
what
on
you're
we don't
doing.
have to agree
I
on
think
that.
you're talking about wanting to help people who are having some sort of existential crisis, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
something
the
I've been
idea?
playing with is the tagline of like, "What the fuck is wrong with me?" You know?
Well, people are always asking that about me. "What is wrong with that guy?" Okay, my wife in
I mean,
particular.
well, the the important thing is, do you think something's wrong with you?
Well,
I'm
I happen
guessing.
to know that I was launched into this world, prematurely, as we were talking about, into
Mhm.
the hands of a woman who was 23 years old, about to turn 24, and a young man who
Mhm.
was 30, and they were my parents, and they'd already, started with my sister, and my sister was not pleased to have this
Ah.
infant me in the mix, and she wasn't really happy to start with. It was pretty
Mm.
rough because my mother was only 21 when she was born.
Oh, wow.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
her
that's quite
first
a
child. She had not had a child before. Now, she had seen her younger brothers come up, but she had been quite young when they were born, and, when the youngest was born, she was probably 5 when the youngest was born.
mm,
But she was raised on a farm in North Carolina where the women did women's work and the men did were in the fields, and
mhm,
hunting and
mhm.
fishing and doing what they needed to do to sustain the family in more or less 18th century conditions. So my mother's skills were that. And my father's skills were basically keeping his head in a microfilm reader. He's a research historian,
Oh, wow. High
and,
tech at the
he was
time,
busy.
yeah.
And when he came home, dinner was on the table, and he would sit down after dinner and watch the 6 o'clock evening news, Walter Cronkite, and it
Mhm.
was we were to be quiet. Well,
Mm.
and I was raised on the Vietnam War, figuring out
Mhm.
what guerrillas were doing in warfare and thinking gorilla my childhood books were animals, not gorilla, right?
Right. Right.
So, I learned all about, body counts.
Wow.
And, the first election I remember was George Wallace running against Herbert Humphrey and Richard Nixon, Nixon's first administration.
Hmm.
I tried to run, but they wouldn't let me. Uh, I was too
Age limit, right?
yeah, but
Yeah.
I made a campaign button anyway with a baby picture of myself, that they should support me, for president because I wanna run the joint.
Wow.
As soon as I get here, I wanna run the joint because we all are like that. I think at some level or another, a lot of us wanna control things.
That's true.
I
That's
blame
true.
this. The
If
opposable
only we
thought.
just had pause.
Right, exactly. I remember hearing somewhere, and I gotta dig it out somewhere. It's just like a vague thing that passed through by me about a society that would cut the thumbs off of infants when they were born to keep them
Wow.
from, civilization. I have a group around here, we call ourselves Civilization Anonymous, and it's made
Fair
up
enough.
of a lot of ex-senators and, people who are really former big shots for the most part. What I'm doing there,
Mhm.
I really can't understand, except that the leader says I'm one of the smartest guys he's ever met, and he loves listening to me.
Fair enough.
Can you imagine?
I mean, that's a compliment.
Well, he's a psychiatrist, and most people who go into that kind of field, there's something wrong with them. He ran the, psychiatry program for years, but he's retired now, at Naval what do they call it? Bethesda Naval Hospital,
Okay.
retired Navy captain,
Mhm.
and he traveled
Mhm.
around with the Arlo Inspector. When the Arlo Inspector would go on his junkets he's had this idea, you keep your friends close, your enemies closer.
Mhm.
So, go into my friend's house, you see pictures of him there with Yasser Arafat and Muammar Gaddafi, because he'd be introduced by Spectre to these guys and interview them basically or meet them and psychoanalyze them.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There's some good
That's a different
stuff.
kind of spying, I suppose. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so Civilization Anonymous basically is our thesis is we like Neanderthals. We're not like subgeniuses. We're like Neanderthals thrown into a culture that we're not built for, right? So we all have this trauma, right? We all have
Mhm.
this trauma of ordinary life.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
he's dealt with a lot with the soldiers coming back from like Fallujah with no arms, no legs, whatever.
Mhm.
One of our
Mhm.
friends actually missed from Vietnam days, now deceased, as missing one arm and both legs. We'd get him into
Wow.
the living room in this house in Georgetown, we'd carry him up the steps, right, and plop him on the couch, and, he was an author, he was a senator, um, interesting guy,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
to survive that, right? And we're all struggling against something, but what you're bringing to the table is you could take somebody who's got some real suffering and use memory reconsolidation of something like the event that blew this guy up. It was actually
Mhm.
a live fire thing where a live grenade got loose from somebody's belty. They didn't know it was live, and he ended up being blown up by it.
Oh, wow.
Wasn't even enemy action.
Wow.
So you see, to has that memory.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
of
Well,
course, go ahead. What do you do
well,
with that?
I will say
What does
you've
one
thrown me in
do?
the deep end here. I certainly am not, I don't have a
What is
lot
an
of training
explosive
dealing with
thing? Right.
war trauma, but what I
Yeah.
will say is, like,
Mhm.
that story in and of itself, I don't hear any problems other than the occurrence of what happened. Now, how does that impact him? You
Right.
know, how does that story, like, how did not story, how that memory, that the story you're telling me, how does that experience in his life impact him?
Yeah.
Um,
They did
you
great
know,
things with it, right? He went
I mean,
on
you're
to great success.
there's such a thing as post-traumatic growth, and I think when we're able to integrate the experience of the trauma so that it speaks to the rest of our sort of conscious awareness without there being that friction between it,
Yeah.
then the growth can happen. Then we have, because before that, say, say this guy got blown up by a grenade, live fire exercise, like you said. I don't know this guy. This is all supposition.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
But for example, say that happened and he had it mean that, like, anytime that he couldn't trust people, which fair assumption. You know,
No, we had a
somebody
lot of fear
somebody
about
got
being dropped, that's for sure.
exactly, exactly. People drop things all the time. People don't carry things. Um, that he may have a difficult time being friends with people. He may have a difficult time trusting that when he opens up to someone, they will carry him without dropping him. That
Yeah.
they'll take care of him. That his safety matters to other people. This so what the way memory reconsolidation as a process would work here is if he is facing a moment where he wants to trust some group of people or something. Say he's just found out about this Civilization Anonymous group. He's come to a meeting. He likes you guys, but he doesn't know you very well, and he's having a really hard time opening up, and he's not sure why.
Mm.
Easy, small thing, but sitting and working with a therapist or a practitioner, the
Mhm.
way the memory reconsolidation would work is if he is able to relive that moment of the grenade going off and not fully with all the emotion of it, but just have the memory structure that was
Yeah.
come up at that time formed at that time come up.
Mm.
And so he's able to see, wow, I like in that moment, yeah, I can't trust people. I know they're gonna drop a grenade on me. They're gonna drop a grenade on me. That's just how it's gonna go. And with working with the therapist or whomever he's working with, um, just being able to create a space and be like, yeah, that fear that you have that is holding you back from connecting with these cool Civilization Anonymous guys that you really like and want to hang out with, but you're having this difficulty, that fear is just trying to keep you safe. It's
Yeah.
trying to protect you from another grenade. And what we want to do is be able to hold that fear in that sort of healing brain state of like keeping it open to new attention, new information. Um, and then, something will usually spontaneously arise as you become aware of like what the story is you're carrying, you can look for evidence in your life to disprove it. For example, he might realize that, hey, when I was at that Civilization Anonymous meeting the first time, that guy Hal was really nice to me, and
Uh-huh.
he picked me up and he took me over, sat me down. We had a great conversation. Like he didn't drop me, and that can unlock that if the two stories can be held at the same time, the old memory can unlock, and then the behavior of not being able to connect with you guys at the meeting would if that's the only memory that is driving that particular behavior symptom, then he'll have a much easier time, being friends with you guys and hanging out with the people that he wants to hang out with.
Yeah, I think safety is the thing that I'm coming back to over and over again and listening,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
how safe here on this planet. There is no real safety, right?
Well,
At
I
some level.
mean,
At some level.
it
In the
depends on what you mean by
cosmos.
that. If
Well,
if you
it's
if you mean,
cosmically.
are we ever completely without danger,
No, I mean,
completely, then
close.
for sure, never. But
And we
if to
weren't, I think historically we weren't. But it's only recently we've had the luxury of feeling
mm,
safe and secure. Like, I feel safe in the bunker. I don't feel like
mhm,
anything can get me. It probably could. The defenses are kinda thin, although I have serious security, it says so on the windows.
fair enough. Serious like the stars?
I know. Serious like serious, but
Serious like
yeah,
no jokes,
I'm
no
s
jokes.
yeah.
Okay. Serious
It's
security.
serious security, and it's on the windows. It's from our previous folks who, had this place. They wired it up, so,
Fair enough.
contacts on all the windows and everything, whatever. But I live in
Nice.
an area where, if somebody wanted to come in through the gate, there's a little cul-de-sac, and I'm in the English basement level. I'm literally in a bunker, basically, to this old 1904 building. It has a very nice turret on the front, and a congresswoman lives in the front part of the building,
Mm,
kind of famous. She's from California. And out back, there's an alleyway, um,
mm,
but it's above the grade of my place because we're on sort of a slope. So
mhm,
I'm really down in here, and I feel pretty safe. But back in the savannah, and the rustle in the hedgerow might mean there's a predator there. I think most of us are geared for that. We are kinda hyper vigilant in our
mhm.
society. We need to be hyper vigilant because we're a dangerous animal ourselves. So I think that a lot of us are dealing with that. I think what you're off is some solutions, some techniques, that you trained in. You wanna talk a little bit more about your background of how you came to this? 'Cause I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe that'll be helpful, I don't
It's been quite a winding path for me.
Mhm.
So I went to school back in early 2000s. I was in New York for 9/11. Um,
Oh, wow.
and
How about
yeah,
that?
so there's that.
Now, you were in New York for 9/11, okay, and you said
Mhm,
you were at school then?
mhm. I was in
At
college. Yeah,
at
at
what
Pratt Institute.
Pratt Institute. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
it's
Thank
an
you.
art school. I went for creative writing. Um,
Oh, yeah.
decided I wanted to. I was fascinated with stories of magic, fantasy, magic realism. Tolkien. Um, what else?
Oh, Tolkien.
I mean,
Magic
I
realism is near and dear to my heart.
I
A
thought it
creative
might be.
writing professor at Pittsburgh was my grand sponsor in AA, so
Oh, wow. Oh,
his,
nice.
name was Lewis Norden, and he did a lot of magic realism in his writing. He was from Itabena, Mississippi, originally. His most famous novel is called Wolf Whistle and is a dramatization of the murder of Emmett Till.
Oh, okay. Very
Wolf
nice.
whistling a white woman is what got Till killed, basically.
Yes.
Knew the
Yeah.
murderers when he was growing up, so got a lot of that kind of swampy,
Oh,
Mississippi Delta kinda blues in it.
that's nice, bringing in some of his personal
Oh, I love
history.
it. Anyway, but go
Yeah,
ahead. You were creative writing at Pratt Institute.
the Pratt Institute.
Familiar with that.
Um,
9/11
yeah,
happens, and
and,
safety.
I
Yeah.
at some
I was
point,
in
I
Copenhagen at the time. Go ahead.
Copenhagen, okay. Yeah, you were saying you were traveling there for a museum job?
No, I went over there to become a tech writer for a small web software company that didn't do as well as I was hoping, and it was one of the dot bombs,
Fair enough,
but
fair
I got
enough.
some experience. I moved there for a relationship, actually. I struck up a relationship by getting an early adopter of 6degrees.com. Did you ever hear of it?
Was it like 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon?
It's kinda like that idea, but it was an early social networking site, and it had a really
Okay.
kinda cool feature where you could, like, surf your connections, and I would just
Mhm.
strike up random conversations with people, kinda like I'm doing now.
Oh, it's nice so that you've got that through line.
And I ended up getting this conversation going with this woman, who was managing the Danish National Ensemble about 2000. She came over in July 2000 to visit me. I didn't
Mhm.
see anything wrong with her and said I'd do what I could to find a job over there and went back to 6degrees.com, found a job over there for it was a small web software company that needed somebody to be their tech writer. And I
Mm.
could also help them sound American and get them out of their problem of speaking Denglish or Danish English. Um, so the job lasted 2 years, the relationship lasted about a month and a half. I was plunged into Danish winter in the
Oh, wow.
2000 to 2001, winter. But it was fun. I mean, I learned a lot. I learned
Fair
a lot.
enough.
Met a lot of people. I'm really good friends with, a particular young woman over there who's, sober now over 24 years, I guess. Yeah,
Hey.
it past 24 years, my sponsee, Tina. And I talk about her a lot in my blog of, my Substack writing.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Did a lot about her just recently because I was feeling kinda nostalgic for our friendship.
Mm.
It was nice of her to trust me, because, it's not generally thought of as a good idea for a male to sponsor a female in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, but the women
Can
hated
understand why.
they hated her.
Mm.
And because she was 6 foot tall, redhead, supermodel, good looks, and, they just women are cruel to each other.
I mean, I can see that causing a lot of,
Let's face it.
unconscious friction there, yeah.
And what was great about it is I didn't have to care what the kid thought, but I could go around and have company when I was feeling very wounded deep down inside after being rejected by this woman who I'd moved there to be with,
Yep.
and, I never saw her again after a month and a half of being over there, and probably never will, but I know, roughly where she is and what she's doing, and she's
Uh-huh.
pretty successful, and that's cool,
That's
but,
good.
it's like you have all these stories of people weaving together, and I think that's fascinating, and I like to live it, and then
Mhm.
I like to withdraw from it for a while.
In your
And,
bunker.
in my little bunker. And in that case, I lived in like 192 square foot or less,
Woo.
little flat that
Uh,
was basically a futon on one wall, little table, little tiny kitchenette around sort of an L shape, and that
mhm.
was basically it. If you wanted to go to the bathroom, it's in a closet out in the stairwell, separate from the actual apartment, and the shower
Wow.
was across the courtyard in this, like, 1904 building also. It's like I have an affinity for buildings
Woo.
from the 19 teens or whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was right next door to Søren Kierkegaard, the philosopher.
Uh-huh.
He was buried
Huh.
in Assistance.
I was gonna say, I didn't think he was still alive, but
I was the next door neighbor of Kierkegaard, and Hans Christian Andersen was right there too, among other Danish
goodness.
literary lights and, famous people. That was a
Fair enough.
big, big graveyard there where most of the famous people in Denmark were buried. But
Fair
it was
enough.
lovely in a lot of ways. I bicycled everywhere, right?
Mhm.
And 9/11 happened, and unfortunately, the company weren't going great by then, and they went worse. And
Oh.
I had to move back to the States in 2002. That was my other option was to get to Milan, where a young woman had developed a position with me in mind.
Mm.
She was a technical writer for Siemens,
Mhm.
and, uh, I felt that there might be just issues taking that gig, and I decided not to do it. And, kinda wonder what my life would have been like, you get a road parted in the woods. Well, this
Oh,
road
yeah.
one went to Milan and one went to Yorktown. And I ended up taking
Definitely
the
different
route to
flavors.
Yorktown, and Yorktown
Yeah.
Naval Weapons Station was doing a thing called the Ordnance Information System. So I became a technical writer on that team,
Hmm.
and we were doing all the requirements to merge all the different systems they had that tracked ordnance in the Navy and the Marine Corps. And our director was an ex-Navy SEAL. He used to
Mhm.
get his jollies having kickboxing and, lunchtime. Yeah,
Each their own.
it was a really interesting guy, and I remember he played accordion in our Christmas party. I played my tin whistles, and, different Christmas carols, but, accordion, Navy SEAL, all these characters, you just
Yeah.
can't make this shit up.
No, such a variety of personality in the same person,
And
you
I
know?
moved to
It's
I moved
fascinating.
up here after that. I got a job at Missile Defense Agency and decided to come up here, and what I was working on wasn't the missile defense systems themselves, I was working on their personal tracking system, an HR
Ah.
system
Oh,
that
oh,
was
personnel. Yeah, 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 yeah.
hand-coded, and the thing
Mm.
was very complex, unnecessarily so, and we realized when I got there with the database guy, we started opening it up and looking at how it was built, and we realized the developer has been in the database making a mess out of it by making tables that, don't talk to each other, and, if you wanted to get a certain report out, you had to know which table to grab the information from, and
Mm.
it was a mess, and he had deliberately designed it that way to ensure that he would never get fired, and he
'Cause
never did.
nobody else could figure it out.
He never did.
Wow.
It was one of the worst things I'd ever seen in terms of software development.
Mhm,
There's an old
mhm.
thing. I'll go back to your story in New York at the Pratt
Yeah,
Institute, and it's
yeah,
there's
yeah.
an old story about software development written in the 1990s or 2000 timeframe. The inmates are running the asylum. I think
Mhm.
that's still happening, by the way, when you look at
Wow.
the modern technology. One of my other fields is like, I wanna know what's going on with this AI bullshit.
Yes,
Where are we
yes,
going
yes.
with that? And can we trust it? But go ahead.
No.
Well, I don't
I
know. Will we even
I
have an option? Maybe we're gonna have to.
we'll see, we'll see. That
Uh,
could be another conversation. I
yeah.
my day job is in AI work, so I have a little bit of familiarity with it.
Well, great. Let's get back to your
Uh,
chat thing, and I just noticed we've run a little over an hour. Are we good with your time? I wanna be
I'm
respectful.
good with yeah, do you have a
I can go on
time
a
my
little bit longer. Yeah.
okay, yeah, just let me
I'm
know. The
no
rest of my
rush.
day is pretty open.
I actually
Not that
stopped working for a living as a wage slave, um,
yeah, yeah.
in August
Congratulations.
2nd, 2024. It wasn't deliberate, but I have not found it necessary yet to go back and draw a paycheck, but I've got a feeler out there for something. I wanna get
Mhm.
to be front of house for a little cafe down the block.
Oh, nice.
Fingers crossed. I'm not
Good
looking
luck,
for
man.
much. I ain't asking
Yeah.
for much. Go ahead.
I mean, simple life, simple pleasures. Um, yeah. I mean, oh, what do so much I want to say. So
Yeah,
it's
please.
interesting. You're talking about this database. I'll just draw this little comparison and then
Yeah.
we'll get back to my
Mm,
story.
please.
But you're talking about this database with all these tables that don't talk to each other and what a mess that is.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's such a good metaphor for the way all of our minds work.
Yeah.
We know all these things,
Right.
but this part that knows this thing doesn't talk to this part that knows this thing. And so the behavior is still like this herky jerky, like it's a mess, right?
Right.
So ideally we want to get in there and get the parts talking. And there are ways to do that. That's kind of what I'm helping to develop,
Excellent.
hoping to develop. But to get back to my story,
Yeah, please.
you were talking about this woman in Denmark,
Yep.
and the way the end of a relationship can rearrange your life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
So,
comics.
yeah, yeah. So I met this woman in college. We dated for a few years. Um, Terrible breakup. I will spare myself the reliving of it publicly. Happy to talk about it privately if anybody wants to, for some reason,
I
dig
don't
into
know
it.
if I have answers asked.
Apologies.
Goodness, who was
That
that?
was the last talk. Go ahead.
Fair
Just
enough. Fair
downloading the
enough.
clips. 31 videos.
Good, busy man.
This thing makes
Um,
its own clips, so we're gonna have a lot of them from this.
oh,
It should be
oh,
kinda
fun.
cool. They'll be automatically pushed as YouTube Shorts in addition, so you can find them out on YouTube.
Oh, nice. I should
Yeah.
say I'm a friend of mine and I do YouTube. We've got some podcasts on YouTube. We analyze fairy tales for the most part. So
Oh,
it's
great. You know, I used to teach Indo-European folktales.
is paper and scissors, scissors and paper. It's podcast Ben Omtad, OMTAD, open mind, thought and discussion. Ben's a great guy. He's a friend of mine from high school.
Excellent.
So yes, that's really fun. Check that out if you're interested. I put some of that stuff on my Substack on occasion too, or just hit me up on Substack if you're interested. I can send you a link. It's
Alright.
also available on podcast apps and stuff. So,
Well, we could write it in the chat
oh yeah. Well, I'll have
if
to.
you want
Oh,
to.
sure. Why not? Let's see.
If you want to.
Yeah, sure.
Um, but you're at Pratt, you're studying, you're breaking up with this girl.
Yeah.
Ugly,
Um,
ugly.
ugly breakup. YouTube. There you go.
Great.
And I realized at that point that the reason I am into magic realism and fantasy and all these things is I have some sort of, this is how I would word it now. At the time, the way I would have said it was I was looking for some sort of an escape from the suffering of the breakup.
I
I
see.
was looking for some sort of sense of meaning in my life, But I think the 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 reason the reason I took the direction I did from that place is I had this sort of intuition of there being some kind of magical nature to reality itself. Some sort of, like, the stories are pointing to some kind of experience, some way of relating to the world, some way of understanding it that's beyond just the everyday kind of the facade. I mean, we we've shared enough references. I know you know what I'm talking about. Gurdjieff, RAW, Young, all these things. So I started sitting Zen. I found a Zen temple in Brooklyn. I started
Huh?
sitting Zen. Took that very seriously for a while. Got involved with a couple different lineages outside. So I was sitting Zen regularly. I started working with the Theravadan teacher from, he's a white guy, but
I love
from the Pragmatic Dharma group. If anybody's familiar with that, Kenneth Folk. Um, Daniel Ingram's work and Kenneth Folk, that whole lineage, if anybody's familiar with that. I
Mhm.
also was doing some somatic in 2010. I came across some somatic teachings, Tibetan Buddhist somatic teachings, Vajrayana. This guy, Reggie Ray, student of Chogyam Trungpa, he ran into some trouble recently and his organization has kind of dissolved. And I don't know that I recommend working with him, but the body work, the somatic work got me out of my head. You're sitting Zen, very serious,
Yeah.
thoughts spinning all the time. You're supposed to be focusing on the horror, but I'm a Western guy. I'm a nerdy kid. I'm very focused on my head. So the somatic meditation really got me into my body, got me feeling into the space of my body. So
Yeah.
I'm starting to become aware of all the things going on in my mind. I find the body can become a space where um, we start to see like the underlying emotions under thoughts. It gives our consciousness dimension that we don't normally have. Normally, we're pretty two dimensional if we're just focused on our thoughts.
But you know
Um,
me, I'm thinking I'm just an imp carried around in the animal that goes from dawn to dusk and back again.
yeah, well, it's fun being an animal, that's for sure.
And it's
It's
fun being an imp.
terrifying being an animal.
It's fun being an imp driving the animal.
An imp. Oh, I see. I see. Yes. Yes,
I'm
exactly.
a little gremlin-like spirit that rides around inside of you.
This is the meat skeleton? Yes.
Yeah, it's
What
kinda
is it?
like that idea. You've heard of that one before, that, you're a ghost driving a skeleton made of stardust, covered in meat. What are you
Yes.
worried about?
Yes. 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 You said it
Don't
better than
worry,
I.
be happy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Go for it.
And I think happiness is our natural state if we don't get in the way of it, but we get in the way of it. So
Well,
so
I
I'm
think
doing
it's
this weird
important.
I'm doing this weird Buddhist thing,
Okay,
and
yeah.
I'm involved with my core group, sort of my root teacher teaching, I guess you could say, is Zen. That's the place I sort of was initially planted and grew.
Mhm.
The Zen monastery. So there's a temple in Brooklyn that I'm going to like every Sunday, and there's a monastery up near Woodstock. It's the Mountain Rivers Order. For
Woodstock.
those of you,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
Woodstock, New York. It's up on Mount Tremper.
I really
It's
wish I
the little mountain.
had.
I highly recommend it. Great. Still to this day, the teacher that was there when I started, John Dido, he passed away in maybe 2010, 2011,
Yeah,
2010.
yeah, yeah.
Um, but his students are great. They're I yes. So I go up there for a retreat on African shamanism
African shamanism, okay.
because they would hold retreats up there. They had guest teachers come through, and they had this guy Malidoma Somé come through. They hosted him for a weekend, and I was like, I don't know about this shaman thing. It sounds fun. Who knows where it's going to go? Um, I'm never going to have a chance like this in my life again unless I seek it out. I
Yeah?
was a good Buddhist guy. I was doing the meditation. I wasn't doing the shamanic stuff, right? But I'm
Okay.
like, I gotta check this out. I gotta check this out. This sounds fun. It was a longer weekend. It was like a Thursday to a Sunday instead of a Friday to a Sunday. So I took a couple of days
Okay.
off of work, take the bus up to Woodstock, and I meet Alidoma, who has since passed, sadly. And oh,
You
he
don't
changed my life dramatically. Meeting him changed my life dramatically. We the first thing he has us do as a group. Well, he speaks to us a lot first, but the first big thing we do, I think this was probably on Friday, we do a water ritual in the tradition of the Daguerre tribe, where he's from in Africa.
Mhm.
And he sets up. He has us set up this whole space according this ritual space according to the way his people sort of understand it. He set up an ancestor shrine at one end. People have been informed ahead of time to bring pictures of their ancestors and some red cloth and some red candles to create this center, this sort of home, this sort of rooting, this sort of belonging place, the village, symbolic of the village. And then we created this hallway, and down at the end of the hallway was a little water shrine that we also created a nice big bowl of water, crystals, stones, plants, very natural kind of a vibe, right? And then beyond that, there's the doors. This is all indoors in the main mess hall at the monastery. Outside the doors, there's these sort of step kind of amphitheater going up to the main level of the lawn outside. And he's got people standing out there with like containers of water and like branches. So you come outside and you get sort of baptized. You get sort of splashed with the water, and then you come back down the other side of the main hall. The main hall. There's this little divider that we set up in the middle. Water shrines on one side. You go outside. Then you come back the other side, and you come back to the village, and you're greeted at the village. You've returned. You've gone on your journey. You come back. Kind of traditional hero's journey type of a thing. And I'm digging it. I'm having a fun time. He's got us singing this song to the ancestors, this ancestral song. Everybody in the village, and then these guides will come and take you one person at a time down to the water shrine, and they'll leave you there, and you'll interact with the shrine. And I'm like singing and dancing, and I'm feeling a little awkward and kind of shy because I'm an awkward and shy kid. But I'm still, I remember feeling like, oh, this is fun. I'm having a fun time. And I get to the water shrine, and I kneel down at the water shrine, and all of a sudden I just burst out crying. So much grief,
Mm.
so much like, and for me at the time, I've done a lot of work around that. I have been worked in this area a lot since then. This was 2010.
Yeah.
Um, but at that time, whenever I would cry, like it would build up in my body. I would feel it choke off in my throat. I'd have a really hard time getting it out of my system.
Mhm.
And at this time, I kneel down in front of that shrine. I'm not feeling any sadness, any grief, anything. All of a sudden, this wave comes up from my body. I'm sobbing. I'm crying. Probably some snot. I don't really remember, but it was just a mess. And I sort of moved through that.
Yeah.
I moved through that, and
Yeah.
then they came and they pick me up and they take me outside and they do this sort of blessing with the water, and I'm feeling cleansed. I'm feeling this emotional release. I'm like, oh my god, this is great. We come back inside. We go around the shrine. There's more singing. There's more dancing. They lead people through. They lead people through. And finally, like the whole group of us, we've gotten under these blankets and we're like singing and dancing, and then there's this sense of like some shift happens and I'm like, "Oh, what was that?" Like, I just feel something. And then right after that, like, Maladona stopped. He'd been drumming the whole time, just drumming, keeping the energy kinda up. And he stops and he's like, "Okay, I think we're done." And at that point, I was like, "I don't know what this shamanism thing is, but I gotta go deeper. I gotta figure this out." Because that was not an experience I was expecting. I don't know. It just suddenly became this question that I had to explore, right?
It's a very
So
interesting experience, right?
yes,
And it
yes.
reminds me a bit of one I had when I was at the University of Richmond. We went down to somewhere in University of Richmond with my, um, sponsor for Amnesty International and Waging Peace, this guy's named
Mm.
Charles Haynes, and he had been part of Mayor Baba's circle when he was a child, like,
Oh,
in
wow.
person. So he was my connection back to Mayor Baba, is that Charles Haynes had been raised and he wrote a book called The Awakener.
Mm,
Um, it was like his, PhD dissertation, I think, actually, when he was working at one of those universities, Emory University, maybe, I forget.
hmm,
Anyway, somewhere around here. I got
right.
piles of books around me. So,
Same.
the thing is that, we went down to this thing and we had a very similar experience, and I found
Mm,
a very, you know, just very uncomfortable in my own body to start with at the age of whatever it was then, maybe 21, maybe 20,
mm,
I forget,
mhm, mhm.
and it really transformed it was transformative, and the
Yeah,
whole group became much more cohesive and such, but then we immediately went apart.
yeah,
I
yeah.
never revisited it. I didn't seek it out. I
Mhm.
didn't go wanna go deeper, but you did wanna go deeper, so let's go deeper.
I did, and I so that we did another ritual the next day,
Mhm.
and one of the things during that whole weekend, one of the things he lectured a lot about was, uh the idea that each of us comes into life with a gift or a purpose, something to deliver. I've heard it discussed in Native American traditions too. That when you see the infants come through with their hands in fists, it's because they're holding something. Like
Okay.
that's the poetry of it. That's the story of it. Um, and that we come with something to deliver. And when I heard him say that, I was struck because I'd always felt lost in life. The question of like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I never had an answer to it. I'm not sure I still do.
Retired. Actually, I stole
It's the
that from
American
Paul
dream.
Feyerabend. Do you know Paul
Really?
Feyerabend?
I don't think so.
You should learn Paul Feyerabend a little bit. He wrote a book called Against Method,
Okay.
I
Let me
think.
just write that down. Against
Against
method.
Method, is that
Paul,
right?
what's the last name?
Actually, I'm not sure that's right. Paul Feyerabend, but I have one of his books here. This is a different one. This is Farewell to
Oh,
Reason.
that's a long name. Okay, Paul somebody or other.
Feyerabend,
Farewell.
Feyer. I'll write it down in the chat. But,
Oh, nice.
yeah, Paul here, there he is,
Mhm.
looking over
Ah,
his glasses at us.
very serious.
He's dead now. But
Oh.
he was a soldier in the, I forget which part of the German army,
Oh,
and he got shot in, while directing traffic in Berlin at the end of the war, and he had these
wow.
gloves he'd gotten off a dead Russian soldier, and his first thought was, as he got hit in the hand was, "Oh, damn, I wanted to keep those gloves." It wasn't that his hand had been shot. It was his little gloves had been ruined, and then he got hit in the back, and, he suffered from that for most of his life.
Oof.
Ended up being
Oof.
a philosophy professor in Berkeley.
Okay.
So, his, philosophy can be encapsulated by the term "anything goes."
Mm.
I mean, you had this whole thing with Thomas Kuhn's, what is that called? You know Thomas Kuhn? Do you know the, philosophy
Mm.
guy? But
Ah, I can't say I do.
paradigm shifts was sort of a
Oh, okay.
and, in studying Galileo and all these different, wonderful, philosophers of science and history and such, Feyerabend got the idea that, basically all of these things that we're developing are just other forms of religion. They're like religions.
Mm.
Science
Mm.
itself is too. We shouldn't respect it too much, in other words. Again, it fits my Robert Anton Wilson baby logic and always questioning everything, standing outside and saying, "Yeah, that sounds good, but on this it's in the telling, but how does it work in real life? And maybe there's some other reality tunnel we could get into here with this." And, it was happening at the same time as the free speech movement in Berkeley, and he was corresponding with German philosophers at the time in German, of course. Ran into a guy who wanted to translate the correspondence, and, I thought I returned the book, but I
Mm.
got a mail from the other sometime later, years later, saying that I had not returned it, and I was like, "Oh, damn, where is it then? I don't know where it is. I've moved several times since then.
Oh,
I'm
no.
sure I returned it." But anyway, his biography, Paul Feyerabend's, is called in English translation, "Killing Time."
Mm.
In it, he talks about how when he was a kid, he used to see these men very stressed, with briefcases and suits rushing. They ask him, "Well, what's going on with those guys?" And his nurse told him, "Oh, those men are going to work." And he'd see these other men sitting in the park feeding the pigeons and having a lovely time. And he'd say, "What's going on with those men?" He said, "Well, they're retired." And then when he was asked what he wanted to be when he grew up, he said he wanted to be retired.
There we go.
Perfectly well. What's funny
Yeah.
about his translation of his memoir is that it's not killing time. It's called Zeitverschwendung. Do you know German?
N No. I mean, no. Yeah.
Well, Zeitverschwendung is wasting time.
Ah.
My memoir was gonna be called, there's many of them, but one of
Right.
them is going to be called "So Much of It Seems So Pointless." But you were talking about
Yeah.
this in that
Yeah.
context, not knowing what you're here for,
Mhm. Mhm.
but
And
now you've
and
got a feeling of you have purpose, huh?
well, I mean, yeah, so at the time, 2010, 2020, yeah, this would have been 2010. Um, the sort of 2 things I took away from that,
Mhm.
looking back, I can say now, at the time, I couldn't have told you any of this, but looking back at it now, I can see that, 1, I had a very intimate encounter with this grief that was in my unsub whatever conscious in my
Right.
body somewhere
It
that
came up
so
out of yeah.
there was so it showed me in that moment that there are things living in my psyche on a level where I am not aware of them all the time. So that I am a bit of a mystery to myself, you know? And there are things in there that want me to get to know them if I can find a way to do that. But it introduced that split. That experience introduced that split of like I'm more than just what I'm consciously aware of. Interesting.
Mhm.
The other thing I learned from Maladoma in that moment was the idea of the gift, the idea of the purpose, the way he talked about it. So the way I'd always thought about it was like, oh, what do I want to be? Do I want to be an astronaut? Do I want to be a lawyer? Do I want to be a guy on a park feeding birds? Do I want to be a businessman? What image do I need to fit myself into in order to be an adult, like to grow up? And the way he reframed it for me was like, oh, there's something in me. There's a gift I was born into this world with that I need to find out how to uncover and deliver. And so it becomes something that's inside of me in this unconscious area that I need to bring up in order to like manifest in the world in a way that is healthy and fulfilling for my psyche because I came into life with some sort of pattern that needs to unfold for
Right,
this world.
right.
And I was like I said at the time I didn't really I was just like I want to know what my purpose is. I want to know what my purpose is. I don't know. You can tell me. Oh, great teacher, but he showed me already where to find it, but I wasn't smart enough to realize it at the time, which, it's fine. Um, but I ended up working with him uh, for a number of years, 3 or 4 years after that. The first time, so this group, we're at the Zen monastery. There's a big group of us. Um, Wraps up. We don't really stay in touch. There's a few of us that stay in touch. We exchange emails. Then out of the blue, this woman emails the whole group and says, "Hey, I've got Malidoma. He's coming to Brooklyn. He's offering divinations, one-on-one divinations, and I've got some spots available." And I was like, "Yes, I need to go and ask him my question about my purpose. How do I figure it out?"
Right.
And so I set up a divination. Yeah, I send the funds in. I think it was like $150 at the time. And we have like he spreads these items on a cloth, and well, he has me spread it, and then he reads the spread back to the person. Traditional to his people, that's the way they do it there. And one he says many things to me over like an hour and a half, but one of the things he said to me that really struck home was that I did not belong in New York. I did not belong in a city. I needed to be somewhere that was a lot more natural, a lot more green, a lot more life. That New York was kind of not healthy for my particular spirit. Now, at the time, my girlfriend, my new girlfriend, not the one, not the one I'd broken up with in college, the one that sort of followed. We had been talking about moving to the West Coast. She was from Seattle, didn't want to go back to Seattle. I'm from originally from California, didn't want to go to California, but we did want to go somewhere that was had some sort of central, city hub, some sort of something going on. So we chose Portland. And in 2011, we packed everything up into a U-Haul van. No, Penske. It was a Penske truck. We packed up into a Penske truck and drove all the way across the country to Portland. I'd never been here before. She flew out once and like looked at neighborhoods to try and find apartments. She found us an apartment. God bless her. She's great. She continues to be great. We're not really in touch, but I wish her the best. And I moved to Portland and immediately got involved with a group of people here who had been training with Malidoma. They were flying down. One of them was flying down to Berkeley and then coming back and like working with his friends. We did some ritual work up here, just as a group, and then we started inviting Malidoma out to Portland for doing divinations with the group here, and we'd advertise to people, and so we'd host him. He'd stay with us for a few days, and we'd have dinner together. He'd go and crash after a busy day of divination because working with people one on one can be very tiring. So,
Sorry.
yes, yeah, you laugh as one who knows. I appreciate that.
Well, I don't
Um,
know. I mean, it could be draining and then, you gotta recharge. If you're like me, I mean, apparently I'm an introvert. I didn't know that.
couldn't tell from the way
No,
you're
you told me
holding court here.
I think I'm an extrovert.
Well,
Apparently,
I
I
think
get
I
to
think we're both.
recharge from being isolated,
Mm, yes. Well, I think
and
we're
then I
both. I think
go
we're
in
both.
probably. I'm close to the line, and I think it depends on the environment I'm in. But go ahead. You were talking.
Uh, yeah, sure. I mean, I could go off on a tangent, but I won't. So we're
Um,
hosting him here. He's coming out a few times. And I would fly back to he and his students have a center up near Albany, New York, called the East Coast Village. As I said, Malidoma has sadly passed. He passed in 2021. But his students are still doing their thing up there, so I highly recommend East Coast Village. Anybody want to check that out? If any of this sparks an interest in you, they're still doing the work. So I'd fly out to the East Coast Village, do some ritual work with the shrines that he set up there. So I got involved in the shamanic work, kind of pulled into it, and just something in me was enlivened by it. It brought something out in me. So then, so then I was going out there one year for a divination training, different kind of divination, but a way to do readings for people. And it ended up getting canceled. And I had raised some money via like a GoFundMe type thing for plane tickets and for the class cost. And I sort of decided to switch and go to this men's work training in New York with this organization called One Taste. And here we get to the problematic organization I mentioned at the start of our call.
excellent.
Yes, yes. So I brought it back up. You didn't, but that's fine. It's part of the story. I like it. I have no real regrets. Yes, although it's Sommet.
Sorry.
Sommet, yeah, with the
Got it.
little accent. I don't know how to do the accent. Just if
I
people are
don't either,
googling it, that'll.
but go
But you
for it.
got them. You
I
got
was
the
I was
Belladonna
looking
right.
them up.
Yeah.
If I'd been a closer reader, I would have seen that. Go for it.
Yeah. No worries. No worries. Um. So I had met a woman who had been trained by One Taste in February of that year at a retreat.
Mhm.
Um. And at this point, I had broken up with the partner I had moved to Portland with fairly amicably, but we had split. And so this coach that I had been working with, she was like a dating and sexuality coach. I was like, great, I'm trying to get back on the market. Like she can help me out. I met her on this retreat. She had impressed me with her ability to be very focused and coordinated. But then also she did like tarot card readings on the side. So I was like, oh, she's got the left brain, right brain thing going on strong. This is great. This is somebody I'd be interested in working with. Oh, she can help me with this problem I'm having. Great. She recommended I check out this men's workshop. I take the funds. I contact everybody on the GoFundMe and I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm really sorry. The thing got canceled, but I found this other training I want to go do. Is it okay if I do that? And there was like one guy that was like, no, I wanted you to go to that training. And I was like, okay. So I refunded him the money. It was like, I think he gave me like $20, but everybody else had managed to cover it. So I go to New York. I go to this training. That's about, I can't really get into the whole One Taste thing. It's about masculinity. It's about being assertive as a man and sort of knowing what you want and
Like
learning
the
how to ask for
Mankind
it in a
Project.
way that's helpful. Was that?
It's not like the Mankind Project, is it?
No, I don't think so.
Heard of
I
that?
don't think so.
Oh, some people around here are into it.
I've heard of it, but I couldn't tell you much about it. The name's familiar, but
No,
that's about it.
go ahead, there's
Um,
something else, okay.
yeah, yeah. So One Taste was a sexuality and mindfulness practice. That was
Oh, one
their core
taste.
thing. Yes. And this was like their men's program. So I got involved in that. Had a pretty intense experience personally. Went through hit another level of trauma in me. Was sort of dry heaving out. They took us on an exercise out into Bryant Park, and I had certain experiences and ended up sort of like dry heaving on the ground, like trying to get something out of my system that I couldn't quite manage to get a hold of. Very intense, but I really was like, "Wow, this is great. This is what this is what I'm looking for." More
Hard
dry
work.
heaving on the
Yeah,
yeah, hard work.
yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So,
Sounds like
I'm
something
doing that.
my
So
friends would
so then
yeah.
I signed up for their coaching program. They have a 10-month long life coach training program, and I had signed up for that thinking, "This is great. I can go into this program. I
Mhm.
can work on my stuff. I can figure out like
Yeah.
I'll just work on me, right?"
Right, right.
But I get into the program, and they're teaching us how to work with other people, and they're having us work with other students, other people in the program. We're sort of cross training with each other, and it turns out I'm really good at it. Turns out like people are like, "This is great." I'm like, "Okay." So I start posting on Facebook of like, "Hey, I'm in this program. I'm looking for clients. This is what I
Okay.
charge." Because they were encouraging us, charge money. Make sure you charge money. I'm a little less iffy. I'm a little iffy on that at this point. But
Well, we
so
can help you out,
I
man.
ended. Long story short, I was on a payment plan for the program because One Taste was expensive. There's a whole documentary on Netflix about how expensive they were. If you want to check it out. Um,
Sounds like fun. I like documentaries, particularly
yeah,
like the Scientology one.
it's culty.
I
It's
live right
very.
over here by the L. Ron Hubbard house, the, like, founding church.
Oh,
And it's on
wow.
19th Street, I'm on 21st. It's
Fair
blocked.
enough.
Right.
Scientology, I do
I'm
not
out
know
there
much
all the
about,
time
nor
to
do I
pull
wish
their
to.
hair. Anyway, go
Hmm?
ahead. I
Okay, okay.
I'm
So
really enamored with people who can do shit like that, and I don't mean shit in a bad way. I mean, like, they can, like, get people to follow them. It's
yeah,
bizarre. Why would
charisma is real.
anybody follow anybody else?
Well,
Don't follow me.
everybody's got their own individual reason for it. That's for sure.
Don't follow
Uh,
me, please. Anyway, go ahead.
we'll follow you on Substack, but don't follow.
Yeah, I'll be
In
arrested.
any case, yes, yes,
Go
no,
ahead.
no, 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 no culty. But One Taste ended up being pretty culty, and there's documentaries, there's podcasts out. People can do their research if they want.
Okay, please do, yeah.
I
Do your
got out
own
pretty quick.
research, folks. That's one of my
Yes,
main themes, is don't
yes,
if it's printed, it's suspect.
yes, yes, yes. Definitely look
Label
into it for
publishes
yourself.
without an axe to grind, or even writes on Substack without an axe to grind, so anyway, go ahead.
Exactly, exactly. We all have our or things. So I'm in this life coach training program. Turns out I'm good at it. I start working with people.
Yep.
I end up making enough money just from the clients I rustle up on Facebook to like finish paying off the program. So I pay off that program.
Uh-huh.
Um, in the meantime, I've gotten involved with the One Taste community in Portland.
Got it.
And I've helped. I sort of decide I'm going to help run the thing because I like, I was running things from Alabama. I was running some things in New York. So I'm like, I like running. I like throwing parties for people. I like putting on events and organizing
So we're in
things.
like 2011, 2012 timeframe.
Yeah, this would be this would be I got 2013 was when I
2013.
2013 through 2014 was the coaching program. So then 2014 onwards um was that
Yep.
met my now wife in the program.
Yep.
Um
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're still together here these 14 years later.
Hey, yeah,
Um,
I've just coming up on 18 years in May if everything goes right, provided
nice.
I don't, like, piss her off too badly.
You guys, so I mean, that long, you must have some sort of a healthy balance between the two of you
Well, she had
of
to
how much you
stroke
piss
about
each
a
other
year
off.
and a half into our marriage because she won tickets to a Bob Dylan concert, but she really hates him, so she blew out her own brainstem to have to just not go.
Mhm.
Um, so anyway, that's
You've
that's
mentioned that a
we
few
have to hate
times. It's a
Bob Dylan
curious
a lot
statement.
for that. So, but anyway, she did have a brainstem stroke at a year and a half into our marriage, which paralyzed her on the left side of her body at the age of 42 for life.
Oh my goodness.
That's a real interesting kettle of fish, and, if
Yes,
you
that
ever
is
have
some
a very
tragedy.
severe headache, people, don't and there's no reason to suspect meningitis, maybe don't let them do a spinal tap, because that's why they couldn't give her clot busting drugs once it became obvious that she had a clot off of the main vertebral to a spot in her brainstem. If they
Wow.
hadn't done a spinal tap where a hematoma could have developed from clot busting drugs that caused waist down paralysis, they might have been able to give her clot busting drugs, which might have spared her the effects of the stroke. So that's your PSA insert.
My
Back
goodness,
to your
man.
story.
Yeah. Oof. I'm gonna sit with that for just a second. That's intense. Thank you
Well,
for
it was
sharing.
it
Thank you
was
for
a happy
sharing. Yeah.
thing, but, it does make us in a three-legged race through life, as I like to say, and it does mean she can't run out on me. She could hobble away, but
Well,
she can walk after a fashion with an ankle-foot orthotic, but initially, the shutdown was complete on the left side. I mean, I
wow.
got to her bedside after she was being held for observation for this pain that they couldn't really trace down after the spinal tap had come back negative. Um, when I got to her bedside, she was just crying from the right eye because the left eye tear duct was paralyzed, and it
Wow.
was horrifically scary, but I just told her, "Hey, this is our new normal. We're gonna get through this," and I made sure there's a picture of us taking our first steps as a married couple at the foot of the bed, and,
Nice.
the left foot in front of right foot since, to the extent possible. Initially, it was impossible. She was in, bed, in an intensive care ward for a while, and then
Yeah.
in a national rehabilitation hospital here in DC, which is the best in the business, so that's good. Um, yeah, it was interesting. It was an interesting journey. One of the things that happened along those lines, we were talking about different relationships have come and gone over the years. Back in Pittsburgh, when I was a young pup, coming out of graduate school, I had gotten into a relationship because my friends were early adopters in the art history department. There was a couple of female friends of mine were early
Mhm.
adopters of Match.com, and I thought, "Oh, that's clever.
Sure.
Let's try that out." And I was doing my work at the 61C Cafe, which is named for the bus that stops there in Squirrel Hill,
Very
neighbor
nice.
Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
and I got paged, and it was one of my Match.com connections, and she wanted to meet down at the Squirrel Hill Cafe, which is lovely and called the Squirrel Cage. Famous in song and story. There's actually a whole book about the squirrel cage called Behind the Red Door. It's not like that, but,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it's an old dark art deco bar. It's opened right after Prohibition.
Oh wow. Classic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and anyway, so we go down there and meet this woman, and she turns out to be pretty attractive and nice, and one thing led to another, and I ended up dating her, and she was the medical director of neuropsychiatry at the University of Pittsburgh's Medical Center, as it turns out.
Wow.
At the time, she was 38, had just recently been made acting director and soon medical director overall. And it didn't work, of course, but my wife's in National Rehabilitation Hospital. That was back in '97, and now we're up to 2013, right about the time you're talking about.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I go to get pick up Len from scheduling her outpatient therapy because she's been through the stroke in 2009. So it's a while,
Okay.
about 4 years into it. And I'm getting our parking validated, standing next to her stroke doctor who just happens to be there, Dr. Conroy. And I look across the way and there's this blonde in a lab coat. And I'm like, Dr. Conroy, do you know Dr. Krause over there? And he's like, yeah, she just started here. Do you know her? And I was like, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. So whenever caught up, found out what was going on with her, and I haven't really talked to her since, but it was kind of interesting to see the full cycle of it. Because the last time I'd seen her, I had been flying over from Copenhagen to try to get business for my company in Chicago started. And at that time, she was at the University of Chicago. And
Oh,
we
wow.
connected then and hung out at the Chicago Art Institute or whatever with her then boyfriend, who was later out of the picture.
Fair
Um,
enough.
Whatever, it was, kinda nice. I like to maintain those relationships. I think you talked about having good relations. Maybe you don't see this person that you moved to Portland with, but,
Mhm.
I don't either. Although,
Yeah.
I have this singer, that I work with sometimes for my voice because I think my
Mm.
voice is an important asset in this work I'm doing here.
Yes, yes.
Um, Sunny, and Sunny is the front woman for a band called Psycho Killers.
Okay.
Which is a Talking Heads cover band, right?
Okay, gotcha. Nice.
Last February, actually, I'm gonna go see him on the 28th of this month too, but I was at the Hamilton Live down near the White House on F Street. There's this venue, this nice jazz club kinda place, little tables and chairs and stuff and little stage, and I was sitting up at the raised bar area, looking
Mhm.
down on the people who were sitting below me as I like to look down on people. I had a clear view of the stage because I wanted to watch Sonny perform,
Nice.
and, there, sitting over there at the end of one of those tables down below me is the same doctor with the whoever she's with. I don't know, as a husband, boyfriend. It didn't look like they were all that chummy, but I didn't bother going down and talking because I thought, I don't wanna inflict my presence on her.
Fair
Um,
enough.
and it was kind of interesting, though, that it's such a small world. You can't escape 8 billion people on this planet. I'm not
Yeah, the same
age
bunch.
or anything. Like I said, we were friendly enough that when I flew over from Copenhagen, we could go around in Chicago for a day and, see a film together. We saw some really weird film. I forget
Mm,
what it was about. Well, I do know what it was about. It was French, and it was about some sort of werewolf
mm,
thing, and
mm.
it's just a bizarre art house film kinda thing. We used to see a
Sure.
lot of films together. That was one of our connections. She turned me on to the Draftsman's Contract by Peter Greenaway. Do you familiar with that at all?
No, Greenaway rings a bell, but,
And she turned me on to, like, um, the painting of Odd Nerdrum. Have you ever heard of him?
no, I don't think so.
He's this, apparently autistic Norwegian painter who does these very old masterish kind of paintings, but the
Mm.
subject matters are bizarre.
Oh, fun.
Um, one of those kind of mashup. So she has gotten me into that and a bunch of other stuff. I turned her on to Murnau's Faust and, a lot of the, Weimar cinema stuff.
Nice,
That was fun. But that was our connection point. I remember one
nice.
time I got together with her when I was dating another girl. Just, she was between relationships or something and living over on the Mexican war streets in Pittsburgh. And we saw 2 films. We saw Kind Hearts and Coronets, which stars oh god, who's the guy who played, Obi-Wan Kenobi in the first Star
Oh,
Wars?
Alex Guinness.
That guy.
Yeah.
He's in, like, 7 different roles as different family members in Kind Hearts and Coronets, all of whom get killed.
Oh, wow.
So, it's comedy, by the way.
Okay, good. That sounds hilarious.
And one of yeah, one of 'em he's in drag, another one he's like a anyway, it's a lot of different
Okay.
characters in this family that, this guy murders, and then he writes out his confession as he's about to be released or something, and he leaves it behind. I'm spoiling it. And then we watched Down by Law. Have you ever seen Down by Law, Jim Jarmusch
Okay.
film? Tom Waits has the soundtrack of it, and it opens up with "Jockey Full of Bourbon," which is a really beautiful song.
I love
And
me
it
some weights.
stars Tom Waits, some other guy I forget, and Roberta Benigni.
Oh, I don't think okay. I got.
They get
I was looking.
thrown
Maybe I've seen that movie. I have not seen that
they get
movie.
thrown in jail in New Orleans together and then escape into the bayou,
Oh wow.
where, of course, Roberto Benigni finds his paramour, who he always stars with,
Ah,
out in the swamp in a little cabin or something.
fair enough. I mean, you gotta allow the man
Constantly
his
it
connections.
was kind of an interesting thing to have this connection point of, like, weird films.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it sort of enriched my life, right? I think all of these, like I said, women are like comets, they come into your orbit. This one is like a stable planet, though. I did this thing recently where I was writing, and I'll get back to your story in a second,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was about how I think of my anima as the goddess Eris,
I've
who's
noticed that. It's an interesting
and
choice. Yeah.
we project our anima onto the relationships we have, but I think my wife is more Sophia,
Hmm.
as in the type in from we were talking earlier about, Answer to Job,
Yes.
and how
Yes.
why didn't Yahweh consult Sophia before visiting all this shit on poor Job, right? He's
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
omniscience, he's got this wisdom over here, he could have consulted it. Why did he listen to his darker son over here who's saying, "Hey, your servant Job there, you think he's such you just take away all that great stuff you gave him, and you'll find out."
Hmm. Hmm.
He just knows how it's gonna turn out. What's the
Well.
purpose of this? But then the incarnation becomes his way of making atonement for having sinned against Job, is I think how Jung has shaken that out. You've read it, so you interpret
Oh,
it.
a while ago, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
But anyway,
It's something to do with the evolution of God's own growth and evolution, or our understanding, the evolution of our understanding of God, or however you want to put it. But
well, I thought it
yeah.
was the evolution of the consciousness of God himself, coming into consciousness himself, because he's
Yes.
somewhat unconscious and jealous of his own creation. What's up with
It's true.
that? You know? Werner Herzog?
Yes, yes, yes. Of course. Yeah.
You know his memoir?
I mean, no, I don't.
You haven't run
I've seen
into
I've
it?
seen several of his movies, but I didn't.
He's actually he's taken the subtitle from the Caspar Hauser story
Hmm.
and made it the title of his memoir. The subtitle is "Every Man for Himself and God Against All." And I love that idea. It's kinda like yeah, if you really think about it, we're very lucky to be here, and
Mhm.
I don't know about you, you do look a little younger than me, but I've been stepping over a lot of bodies as I'm going.
Mm. Yeah.
There's a lot of people behind me and fewer in front of me who are older than me, right? And all these people coming up behind me, though, I mean, they're 8.275 billion at my last count,
Mhm.
and I can't go to a show without running into an ex.
Well, like you said, some of them are stable planetoids.
Let's bring it back to you. Let's bring
Yeah,
it back
yeah.
to you. So you were doing this thing in Portland about
Right.
2013, and then
Yes. 2013,
14
2014,
yeah,
my wife and I and our friend, and a few other people, but that we were sort of the core three were holding the local one taste group here in Portland,
uh-huh,
and trying to organize the group here, grow it into a functioning community. Spoiler alert: it didn't work out that way, but we tried.
mhm,
Working really hard. We were working. My wife and I had managed to start a guest house, like an Airbnb business,
yeah,
right around that same time. So we had our housing and our income kind of covered by that, and then we had a lot of free time to kind of run this one taste thing. It's pretty
alright,
magical. Yeah, I kind of wish I could pull it off today, but we'll see. Um, so we were doing the Airbnb thing and the one taste thing, holding the community, trying to hold the community and get them trained by, quote unquote, the mothership down in California. The main group, the teacher was based out of San Francisco, LA. Most of the time, sometimes she was in New York, mostly San Francisco, LA. Most of the big programs were down there. So we were trying to send people down there. After a few years, we were sort of like trying to shelter people a little bit from some of the more predatory, salesy kind of stuff that was going on. Cause like I said, it was pretty culty. The further I got into it, the more I was like, ooh, maybe I should back out. Um,
huh,
and
huh,
but so all of this is to back up my coaching, the sort of services that I've developed at this point, and I'm trying to get more out into the world. The signal that you are helping to amplify is a desire to work with people. What I found with the one taste coaching work was it was focused on desire. It was focused on like things that you want. But then when you would run up against some sort of resistance or some sort of struggle, their advice was usually to just kind of push past it, like push harder, like you know, practice more, just kind of try and overcome it. There was never really slowing down and getting to know these parts of ourselves that are under the surface. Like I was talking about with Malidoma, like I learned there's a lot under the surface, and there I ended up feeling like a like a dog on a chain. Yeah, I don't know what you were doing with that gesture, but that's what it felt like a dog on a
Power
chain. Like
through.
power through.
Yeah.
You're running, you're barking, and then the chain will grab you and yoink. You know, you'll yelp and you'll kind of fall on the ground, and then you'll go back, but
Well,
you
that's
never
your
stop and
problem.
look at what the chain
You
is.
must be doing something wrong.
Yeah, run
You're not
faster. Run.
following the way of thinking good enough, you know?
Yep.
Just deny.
Yes. Yes. So I mean, they you know they may have a different opinion
I
about
love denial
all of that. You've ever been to Egypt?
and
Um,
defiance.
Yes, yes. I mean, in the Gurdjieff work, there's an important place for that. The holy denying. It's the thing that with the friction that we rub up against. We gotta hold both of them,
Yep.
affirming and denying until something comes through to balance them out.
And if that's a windmill, well, I'm tilting at it.
Right. Well, I got sick of tilting at windmills. I got sick of getting jerked, the chain getting jerked behind me. I decided to turn around and try and figure out what the chain was and how I could maybe unhook myself, or how I could my inner calm my inner monkey enough that it wasn't always pulling at the chain, and maybe we could figure out what was going on together, and try and get myself a little bit more free. And to do that, I ended up doing a pretty deep dive into various trauma work. I could drop a lot of names: Gabor Mate, Thomas Hubel,
Abermate, yeah.
Bessel van der
Hey,
Kolk.
oh, yeah,
The memory
Bessel.
reconsolidation
Now,
is that we started out
have
is
you run into
bundled in there too.
have you
Go ahead.
run into Cracked Up yet? I mean,
Cracked up?
a
No,
documentary on
I don't think so.
trauma-informed care through the
I don't
lens of
think
the
so.
life of Daryl Hammond.
No, I have not.
I helped fund it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm in the credits, which I thought was it amused me greatly. I was at the conference of the Association for Childhood Advocates here in DC. The Childhood Advocacy of America centers were having their national conference, and there was a screening of it with the director, who's a friend of mine.
Yeah,
And I want to have her on sometime. I did have her manager on. Her manager's a guy named Keith Guard, and Keith has a very interesting story, actually. I let him tell it. Maybe I'll get him back on here soon. But part of it is that he was co-managing Aerosmith during the Pump phase, and he helped produce the Making a Pump documentary about how Aerosmith, was coming back sober and, put out this, and they were pumped because they were in sobriety, and they put out, the album that had Love in an Elevator, Janie's Got a Gun, da 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 da, all those big hits of the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for
But
them.
Keith was great to talk to. I've had him on the show, and then I'm hoping to have Michelle one of these days. He's the director of Cracked Up, and she also directed the Wavy Gravy story. I had that right at hand here somewhere close by, but now I don't seem to. But I do have Wavy's book. I don't want to pull that out. Everything's going to come crashing down. Kind of like that here.
Little Jenga tower. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I keep sorting things out because I'm interested in talking about different things, and then I know I just had that here. It's funny. Oh, there it is. This is my autograph copy that I got the day I met her.
Ah, nice.
There's Wavy's signature there, and Michelle's son.
Oh,
Here, it's up at
yeah, off on the side there. Yeah, nice.
And then Wavy's wife, Ja, she signed it here.
Oh, wow.
And that's them when they're young. My guru here is Nobody's Fool. He's got the fool costume on. He calls himself that because he had a big campaign during the presidential campaigns called Nobody for President.
Nice.
So he's
Nice.
Nobody's Fool.
I like it. I like it. I love that. I love that tongue in cheek.
Han, so he's in the lineage from Thich Nhat Hanh on down. If you're into Buddhism and stuff,
I do like Thich Nhat Hanh. I saw him once in New York. He's an amazing presence.
Yeah, and Wavy has a great one which goes with your slowing down bit, which is do, be, do.
Doobie doobie doo.
Do, be, do.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, take action, relax, take action, hit the end of that chain, but then back off a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Until you can figure out how to get further. If it hadn't
Nice.
been for Wavy calling Graham Nash about the Chicago 7, you wouldn't have the song Chicago by the Crosby, Stills, and Nash, which goes, "We can change the world."
Wow.
It's the one that goes, "Yeah, your brother's bound and gagged, and they've chained him to a chair. In a land that's known for freedom, how can such a thing be fair? Won't you please come to Chicago just to sing?" And that was what Wavy said to the guy when he called him up on the phone. He said, "Won't you please come to Chicago? This situation is happening." Um,
Wow. Wow.
so yeah, there's a lot of interconnection between people, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating to me because I'm just this peripheral character. I'm just this guy, It's kind of like Zappo Bebo Rocks and Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yep. Yep.
You remember that? I
Yeah.
thought it was just
Yeah.
this guy, who gets elected president of the galaxy because they thought it was a contest for the worst dressed sentient creature.
I love Douglas Adams. He's so finely tuned his humor.
It is good, and he died the very day I bought the collected Hitchhiker's Guide,
Oh wow.
or to entertain myself in Denmark. It
Huh.
was like something out of the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was on a
Well,
treadmill at 49 years old and just dropped dead.
wow.
Isn't that
I was
crazy?
not aware of that. That is crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
we're
knew he had
all here
passed, but
for
I
such
didn't.
a brief time, but I've got taken your time, and I wanna get back to your story. So please
Yeah.
go back.
Right. Well, I mean, we were kind of right at the end of it in any case, but yeah,
The thing
happy to
about
kind of
trauma-informed care,
wrap it up.
Gabor Bessel van der Kolk, all these guys are actually, I'll put it right into the chat here, crackedupmovie.com. The
Oh,
site
it's
itself
yeah.
has continuing conversations as well, in
Mhm.
which Michelle gets Bessel van der Kolk on, gets Gabor Mate on, gets V on, who used to be Eve Ensor,
Mhm. Mhm.
um,
Giant
all these
monologues, yeah.
different people and talking about trauma, and she got trauma-informed care introduced into legislation,
Oh, wow. Good for her.
when she was here in
Thank God.
DC with Daryl doing the Cracked Up Movie, thing. Daryl Hammond, was with Saturday Night Live.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
familiar with him?
Yeah, I mean, enough,
He
yeah.
impersonated Bill Clinton
Yes.
a
Yes,
lot,
yes.
and he
I
also
can
impersonated Sean Connery on Jeopardy against Will Ferrell as Alex Trebek. You remember they'd do something like
classic.
an album cover, and he'd say, "I'll take anal bum cover for" That's
That's
an
right.
album cover.
I love the Connery Jeopardy sketches. I gotta go back and watch those on YouTube.
Yeah, well, you can probably find them out here,
Man.
for sure, because,
Yeah.
a lot of them are in that film.
Oh, okay. Oh,
She
cool.
worked a lot of those things in there, as talking about what he was going through in the dressing room behind the scenes where he's cutting himself to stop the flashbacks.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a beautifully shot film.
Nice.
It's not very triggering, and it was I thought, her filmmaking chops are class A. For one thing, when she was doing the Wavy Gravy movie here, which is
Mhm.
now in its 10th anniversary edition with extras, I
Nice.
skipped that version, um, she got D.A. Pennebaker to produce it.
Okay.
She's got
I'm
this thing on
unfamiliar.
Spin Impact about asking for help.
Hmm.
She's got a TED Talk also that's called "Through or From or Through the Mud We Rise," like how the lotus
Mm.
comes up from the mud.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with all these concepts from your work you've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And in fact, I mean, what I'm looking for right now is some kind of help.
No.
I
Oh,
have this
oh,
I have this coaching modality that I've kind of, you know, built on top of the
mm,
incomplete stuff I'd learned from One Taste. I'm looking for people right now for
yeah,
pay what you will, donation based, work with me. It's like 2 hour
same here.
session. We look in whatever particular piece of friction is hitting you in your life. We try and change your relationship to those parts. You try to understand what's on under that surface, like I was saying, kind of integrate those a little bit better,
Yeah,
hopefully smooth some things out. And then at the end of the 2 hours, the goal is somewhere between like $100 and $300 would be the target. But like whatever people think it's worth, I'm learning.
yeah.
I'm learning how to
Well,
implement this.
Yeah.
beta testing, so to speak. So any of you 12 folks watching, if you're interested, that would be hit me up, Ian at thekindknife.com.
And
Type
I'm
it in
so
here.
excited that you reached out to me, and I was like, who is this guy?" I don't know. And actually, it's kinda funny because, Wavy Gravy had a similar experience when he was trying to drive from, um, Coventry, where he'd been at a
Hmm.
Pink Floyd concert fundraiser for the caravan that they was gonna
Hmm.
drive over to Bangladesh to feed the, people in Bangladesh in 1970.
Oh, wow. What a
Uh
guy. Jeez.
Yeah, and he was driving through Germany, and they found themselves in a forest with these gypsies that they were hanging out with, and they found themselves surrounded by these Germans and tanks, and Wavy
Oh,
was like, "Who are these guys?" And it turns out that they wanted to help, and he said, "Well, we really
what?
need some well, if we need really what we need are socks." And he woke up the next morning, and he couldn't see because he was buried in socks. Isn't that great? Isn't that a
That's
great
great, man.
story?
That's
You gotta
great. That's great.
gotta see the and by the way, you can get this on YouTube, you can buy or rent it there, but the,
Oh, nice.
trailer is out there for free, which is
Saint
worth searching.
misbehaving.
And his best friend who traveled with him on that caravan out and they didn't make it to Bangladesh, by the way, because war broke out before they got there, but they went up to
Mm.
Nepal and, damn it, I've gotta show the shirt. It's under
Oh,
here.
I see.
Um, they ended up founding this in 1979.
Uh,
That's Seva,
mhm, mhm,
and that means service in Sanskrit. And it was because they wanted to give back to the people that they ran into up there, and Steve Jobs wanted them to figure out what to tackle after eradication of smallpox, which Larry Brilliant, the doctor on the caravan, was
mm.
instrumental in doing.
Oh, wow.
Eradicating smallpox, and Seva restores sight to the blind. You see it says a solution in sight there?
Mm, mhm, mhm.
So there's a good story that goes with this. They were in this is where the doobie doo comes in.
Nice.
They were in Michigan, brought together by, um, Steve Jobs with Ram Dass. Have you heard of
Mm.
Ram Dass, right?
Of course, be here now.
And, Wavy and Ja, who was I showed the picture of a minute ago. That's Ja.
Ah, gotcha.
And, who else was there? Oh, these UN doctors and scientists and such. Larry Brilliant was there as well. He's the doctor. And, they were trying to figure out what they should tackle next. Jobs had brought them together specifically for that. So they decided that unnecessary blindness was it, that they could, for the cheap operation, they could restore sight to people who didn't have to be blind in the third world, but they would need a helicopter, right? So they needed
Mm.
money for that. So you need to do a fundraiser. Well, Wavy gets on the airplane to fly out of there. His job is to try to help fundraise for this thing. And who's on the plane when he flies out of Michigan? The Grateful Dead. And
Wow.
Wavy says they didn't have parachutes, so he could hit 'em up. And he got started with the drummers, and they moved on to the rest, eventually Jerry Garcia, they all signed off on it, and they 1979 threw the first benefit concert, and I forget exactly where it was, somewhere in California. And, Bill Graham came to Wavy and, nobody had told Bill Graham it was a benefit concert. And he's like, "Why am I always the last to find out about these things, god damn it?" But then Wavy was over with, Jerry's guitar tech, Steve Parrish, getting high, and he overcomes Bill Graham with an envelope for him, and he opens the envelope, and it's a check for $10,000.
Wow.
And he said, "Bill,
Wow.
why are you doing this?" And Bill Graham said to him, "Because you did not hit on me, my friend." It was a really lovely story. Wavy tells it better than I do, but I'm just repeating it, because I heard it so many times. I'm actually going out to a thing at the Ardmore Music Hall in Philadelphia called Unlimited Devotion, which started in 2016, which is where I got this, was a screening of Saint Misbehaving that Wavy was attending, and they did a panel afterwards. And they do it every year now, except they didn't do it the year of the pandemic,
Mm.
2020. They missed that year. So this will be, I guess, the ninth one in
Wow.
2026 here. Wavy's not making it out for it anymore, but at the time, what was really weird You got a minute to listen to this story too? We're running past 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm okay. If you're okay, I'm okay.
I'm okay.
All right.
I won't be okay soon, but I'm okay now.
Same. Same. Likewise. Yeah.
And the thing was that got me was that, you know, the guy who started it had just wanted to exhibit his Grateful Dead posters someplace that wouldn't sell them, and he had stumbled on the Mainline Arts Center, and Wavy talks about kitchen synchronicity a lot, right?
Uh-huh.
And synchronicity, of course, Jungian term.
Of course. Of course. Magical nature of reality.
A causal connecting principle,
Mm,
as you will hear about, by the
yes.
police, because I was thinking of the police earlier when you were mentioning something that I didn't recognize, and I was thinking of a police song, but I don't remember that now. So getting
No
back to
worries.
my story, so Scott wants to exhibit his Grateful Dead posters. He goes to the Mainline Arts Center, and on the board of the Arts Center, though he doesn't know it when he pitches it, is the daughter-in-law of Wavy Gravy. His
Wow.
son had moved to Philadelphia and lived there, and I met him once. Very nice guy. But he had been named by his parents when he was born. Oh gosh,
Jeez, I can't even imagine.
it's a long name. It's a hippie name, right? He was
Of
born at
course.
Tomahawk Truck Stop, so he
Okay.
got named Howdy Do Good Tomahawk Truck Stop Gravy.
Wow. Wow.
Howdy
Did
do,
he go by
do
Tom?
good, do good, and then Tomahawk Truck Stop because she was giving birth in the truck stop, and that's where he arrived. She
Fair
was
enough.
seeing the sign up above that said, "Welcome Tomahawk Truck Stop." So,
Clearly, that has to be
you're in
included.
that extremis, when you're in that trauma of childbirth, of course, that makes perfect sense. So, uh,
Yeah.
the boy changed his name at the age of 13 as soon as he legally could to Jordan Romney. Wavy's real name is Hugh Romney. He was,
Okay.
part of the Hog Farm. He was an improv kinda comic, and
Mhm.
he ended up, going to California after being first in Boston with Martha Graham's outfit, and then they
Oh,
moved
wow.
to Greenwich Village, and in 1961, he was living over the Gaslight, and he had a roommate for a period of time there, named Bob Dylan. So
Oh,
that's kind of
okay.
another connection,
So
right?
this guy's had, like, a blessed entire
In
life,
fact,
not just yeah,
yeah, in
wow.
fact, the story there's a album called The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan from
Mm,
1963, the year I was born, and there's a song on it called North Girl from North Country.
mm.
That's her. That's the girl from
Oh,
North Country.
okay.
So, that's kind of funny too.
Talk about
Uh,
the same connections through different people's lives. Wow.
yeah, I mean, I just sort of learned these things, and I think it's because my grandmother was a Bayshore, Long Island, um, per immigrant, from
Mm.
her family came over in, like, the 17th century, so she got big into genealogy, and I think it's just in my blood to make connections like that and treat everything like it's genealogy.
Nice,
Who's
nice.
cousins with who? She decided she was, going to go for being a Magna Carta dame. You know what that
Mm.
means?
Trace yourself back to the Magna Carta, I would
The
assume.
barons who forced King John to sign the Magna Carta, all of their descendants are barons or dames of the Magna Carta. You know
Okay.
how many people you're related to when you get back that far if you've got 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8? Hopefully
Exponential.
hopefully you've
Yes.
got 8, but maybe not. Maybe you have fewer. That's possible.
I've got
Intermarriage
8.
happen.
Yeah.
Cousins marry sometimes.
Especially with the royalty. Yes.
Well, you get that far, you're descended from more people than exist. So it's
Yes.
really kind of funny that people put
Yeah.
a lot of stake in that type of thing. Kind of funny, kinda sad.
Well, yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is what it is. I've really appreciated talking to you about all this stuff. I do
Likewise.
recommend that we look into the work you're doing and get you more support. I can get I'm having a hard time nailing Michelle down for an interview, but I'm hoping to, and
Nice.
she's right up your alley,
Okay.
a lot of ways. Right now, she's working on a docu-series on a guy named Terry Real. Have you ever heard of Terry Real?
Yeah, yeah, Terry Real, yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah,
know him.
relational,
Exactly.
yeah, therapy, coaching work, whatever it is, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
share with you some information along those lines. Her Spin Impact thing talks about the work she's been doing with Terry Real, which will be her next major work. She's shopping it around, I think, is trying to get the support to make sure it comes out. But, it took
Nice.
her 10 years between starting to film, getting the idea, and starting to film Saint Misbehaving and actually delivering it.
Wow. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it took another, I don't know, was it 7 between Saint Misbehaving, 7 or 8, I think, maybe more.
Wow.
Maybe more like 10 before Cracked Up came out. Which was the next thing she worked on. She's kind of meticulous, I think,
Yeah.
for
I mean,
filmmaking, but she calls it ripple effect films because when
mm,
you get something like this, I mean, this one was advertised as an unabashed, love letter to the world. That's what it says up here on the top from Stephen Holden of the New York Times, and that was 2009, 2019 10th anniversary edition, and then, yeah, that was right. Cracked Up came out in 2019. That's when I saw it screen. Right after I came back from the 2019 Unlimited Devotion weekend.
ah,
So again, will happen May 8th, 9th, and 10th at the Ardmore Music Hall, if anybody's interested and can get to Philadelphia. The Ardmore Music Hall is a fairly small venue, and I think most of it's sold out already is what I heard. My God, I'm so glad I got early tickets. I'm like a mega ambassador for the Ardmore for no other better reason than I think that, you gotta nudge the needle for these people a little bit. This isn't
yes.
like it's expensive to do these kind of things, and most musicians don't make enough to really make ends meet.
That
And
is
the
true.
Dead were almost broke just about all the time because they poured everything back into their touring,
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
into their wall of sound.
Mhm.
That's a great story in itself. I don't know if you've ever gone into that stuff, but, the guy I was with before was, like, involved in a lot of peripherally into all that
Mm.
stuff, including meeting Ken Babbage, who told him, "Keep your dauber up."
Nice.
I don't know what
I
that
saw
means exactly, but it sounds like a good idea.
yes. Yes. Well, let us all keep our dauber up in that case.
All right, Ian. Well,
Alright, Hal.
keep it up. We'll do it again, whenever you feel like. I've been
Sounds
doing
good.
sometimes very frequent guests with the Hungarian woman, Gabriela Qureshi.
I know you do some cooking.
She
Yeah.
told me
Yeah.
she wants to write a book about our conversations, so, who knows? A
Oh,
book's gonna be coming out of it.
exciting stuff.
Who knows? I don't know. I never know what's gonna happen. By the way, you know what I wanted to be when I grew up? I wasn't retired.
Oh, yeah?
And I'll ask you afterwards what you wanna be when you grow up. When you grow up, if you ever do.
Right.
Not sure it's a good idea. Um,
I'm skeptical
growing
myself.
up,
Yeah.
but I wanna be a flaneur. You know what a
Nice.
flaneur is?
I do. Yes.
Tell me.
Yes. And well, my understanding of it is, sort of a gentleman of leisure who wanders quite a lot. Your passing show, for example, is a
Precisely.
plein air right there. Yeah.
That's my job
Yeah.
description. Now I just need everybody to support it, become a
Mhm.
paid subscriber of Harrowings, and you'll be on the board of directors of the Harold B. Gill Foundation, LLC, which is actually a
Very
real
nice.
company. It's
I've
me.
noticed. Yes.
And I have a founding members become co-chairman of the board. We only have one chairman of the board right now, Eric Knudsen, who is a founding member.
Very
And we're
nice.
really
Well done
appreciative of
there.
him, even though he does make an awful lot of penis jokes.
Well, you take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
You like penis,
If
and then
he
it's all good.
plays, he can say whatever he wants.
Only he'll do that.
All right,
Yep.
it's been a lot of fun, and I've
Thank you,
gotta
sir.
get my bladder emptied, so I'm sure you probably are in there too.
I've been drinking water this whole time. I could use a break. But yeah, let's do this again. I'll reach out, or if you have some space in your schedule, reach out to me. I'm definitely open to it. And yeah, I'd love to.
Absolutely, I've got lots of time until I get hired. I may get hired.
Good luck. Good luck with that cafe job. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine it could be real interesting because
Lots of people.
and, like I said, it's right next door where you get the power cuts,
Mm.
Diego's. They got pictures of everybody on the walls except Trump. But then,
Yeah.
uh, it was pointed out that he probably doesn't work on toupees. Oh, no. I don't know.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Not a lot of
Listen,
barbershop work for Two-Face. That is true. That is true. All right,
thanks so
sir.
much. See
It's
you
been a
later.
pleasure. Take care.
Bye.